Wait for it.
Oh no, it's the upset one. No! What happened? I was muted. No, we were just talking about how, Jack Troll griefed you, and I'm literally just defending you and veterans rating you at 81. Don't worry about it, man. Call me. I want to get explained. You want me to add him? You want me to add him?
Go for it.
All right.
Go for
Okay,
it.
this is content right here. All right, hold on. So, today is the long-awaited stream. We ended up doing an LCS recap, LCS player rating stream. This is what we created. We grouped the players by role, and then we put the players in order of 1 to 10 in their role, and then from that, we tried to determine, like, how good they are compared to each other. So, the highest top lane rating we had was 91. Highest jungle rating we had was 91. Mid lane Perks came in at a 95. Sven was a 90. He was the highest rated AD we had. And Core JJ was a 96, which was the highest rated player. So we had 2 players that were 96 and 95. And then there was 3 other players above 90. We're going to see if we have to adjust this. Obviously, LEC is a stronger region than North America. And the way that I'm going to talk to Veteran about it when we get into this talks is the only player that I'm gonna rate myself and just try to give like a metric for how good the player is gonna be Caps, because I did this whole list with the mentality that Caps is like a 97. So he would be better than any player from North American LCS. So he would be a 97, and that's where everyone falls in relation to him. So we'll kind of go with that. And the reason that Veteran is going to be here is not only are we going to average our ratings, right? So we're just going to go right down the middle for a lot of these ratings, right? Like I'll give a player rating, he'll give a player rating, and we'll go right down the middle. The reason we have Veteran here is because he has a lot of knowledge on regional leagues. So should be really good to be able to have these discussions where I can defer to him on players that I haven't seen before, where he knows how good every single one of these regional league player is. If I go from Australis and I'm like, hey, tell me how good Zanzara is, tell me how good Promise Q, Jeskla, all these guys, like how good are they playing right now? He's going to be able to assign the ratings to those players, having watched them a lot. So should be good. I'm going to call him right now, and we're just going to get into it. We're going to start by just getting all the rosters that we have confirmed so far in front of us. And then from there, we are going to attempt to give the role ratings and see if we have to adjust it from there. So, I don't know. Did you see the first player ratings that we did? Well, one that I did for LCS?
I watch everything that you do, Dom. But except that randomly and mysteriously. So no, I didn't. I saw you flash it up on the screen right now.
Okay, sure.
And say that like Caps was your base at 97, which is good because that eliminates the immediate problem, which is I was going to ask you exactly what the metrics are relative to, right? And I'm glad we're going to do like a 1 to 10 per role because that makes things a lot easier as well.
Yeah, so that's what we would start. And I figured that the way we would do it is we just split it right down the middle. So we would like both come up with a rating for every player that at least is known to me. We'll come up with a rating for those players and we'll just average it, right? So if I go 94, you go 92, he's a 93.
Okay.
Unless you think there's a better way to do it, which I'm down for. I'm open to
I know.
suggestions.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have a suggestion. I mean, I just hate doing numbers in general when I do these sorts of things. So I don't really have a suggestion on how to improve the numbers thing. That's why I don't really like doing the numbers thing. The immediate thing I was thinking was like, okay, so I think the numbers should be higher than Dom thinks. I should just jump it to 100 or something to get the average that I think is the real thing. Right? It's probably best to put both our ratings down next to it as well as the average rating to prevent my temptation to just do that to make the average rating appropriate, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And then so like obviously the main goal is for a lot of these players that I don't have like too much knowledge on. Like I've seen Zanzara play, I've seen Jeskla, Promise Q all play.
Yeah.
I mean I saw Jeskla and Promise Q play with Leader when I was watching him. And I wasn't like particularly impressed by either of those guys, but I can't say I've watched enough to give them an accurate rating, like a fair and accurate rating. I like watch them play an EU Master Series and get shit on. It's like, okay, well to me they're gonna be like low 70s or like something like that. But a lot of these players like Dan from Fnatic, Sagenda. I know you've been like hyping this guy for a while. I don't know how good these players actually are. So yeah, I mean, I think that it'll be good to have your expert opinion on all the regional league players coming in.
I thank Jesus and the Most High that Sagenda and Shakolad didn't end up taking a North American offer. Like, thank the And Segenda was trolling me right up until the day as well with it.
What, he just told you he wasn't going anywhere?
He was dropping hints at me that he was going to NA for the money and shit like this. And then when the day happened, I was like, fuck you, man. Like, you actually made my life hell up until this point. Luckily, obviously, he's staying. Those two are, like, the futures of their lanes, to be honest. And they're really good pickups for the teams involved. Last thing I want to ask you to clarify then, about how the ratings will work, is are we basing this off of, like, how good we think they are in their role in general, or how good we think they're going to perform? Because those are two very different things. There are teams that can make up for the flaws of a lot of these players, so then a lot of these players could end up seeming like they have a really good performance, even if objectively I'd say that they aren't. Like Broxer was a really good example of that, right? Fnatic were good at making up for his flaws, but objectively I didn't think he's very good jungler, as you can tell by his Team Liquid stance, right? Stint, I mean.
Yeah, of course. So it's going to be like just a straight number based on how good you think the player is right now, regardless of what team they're on, regardless of what environment they're going to be in. It's just going to be purely based on like your analysis of their skill. That's what I want the number to represent.
All right, that's good then.
All right, so I guess the first thing we can do is just start with ranking the players from top lane. So
oh god, the cursed role.
The cursed role. So I'm just gonna go with the players that are known quantities to myself, and then we can go from there. Man, Astralis roster still just It looks.
I don't think it will be 10th.
You don't think it'll be 10th?
I think the Astralis roster is kind of underrated. I think 10th is either going to be SK or Schalke. I'm not 100% sure on this yet, but I wouldn't write off Astralis as 10th.
Schalke 10th with Broken Blade, Gilius, Abadage, Neon, and Limit.
Yeah, it's a banger. I mean, I think Abadage was doing the same stuff that he was doing beforehand, and I think the really underrated aspects of their Miracle run was actually IWDominate. I think when they got more consistency on the bot lane from Neon, actually Neon's a really underrated one, when they got more consistency on bot lane from Neon and can play really heavily around IWDominate, you saw the player that IWDominate always was, but he'd basically been completely and utterly ignored beforehand. And Gilius was basically Odo's pet in this regard. But with actually, you have Gilius on soon, so I'd be interested what he says about that. But I'm not sure how that dynamic will work with Broken Blade. From what I've seen of Broken Blade, I don't think he's as good a player as IWDominate at all. And I think Abadage's... I think Abadage's flaws started to get more masked rather than that Abadage suddenly turned into an S tier player. Because previously Abadage was going pretty heavily aggressive in scenarios where there was no real side lane priority at all. And sometimes he'd do it even when they did have side lane priority. Like I always think of the time when they had Ignar, and Ignar would do roams from bot to mid sometimes with Trick, but Abadage would just go aggressive before they could even be there. Yeah, right? And he still... Yeah, and he still had a lot of these kinds of tendencies. It's just that they had so much pressure on top side, and bot side was playing like a rock, that he could actually get away with this without being heavily punished, like he was being before.
Sure. I mean, I just say that admittedly, like, even though he did have still the same type of issues, he's the same type of player, like something about the fact that the team was just winning, or like the confidence boost allowed him to just look better individual. Like he was getting way more solo kills. Like he had some crazy like solo kills that I thought should never happen. Towards the later part of the season. So like the one that sticks in my mind is that like Corki versus LeBlanc. Was that into Nemesis?
Oh.
Was that?
Yeah, wait, I remember that.
Yeah. I was like, what? Like, how the fuck could you ever just, if you hear that concept, Corki solo killed LeBlanc level 5. You'll like no one will ever be like, okay, that's a possible thing to happen. Like that is just completely illegal. And for some reason, I guess he was just able to constantly perform. So the players that I'm going to rate here are just going to be the top 6 that I know. So I'm going to go from my highest rated is going to be Wonder, and I think my lowest rated will be Cries here.
I think Wonder's good for number 1. Yeah.
So I'm just gonna do what I think the top 6 are, and we can just discuss see if you agree with the known quantities here.
Jesus, what a cursed role, actually. What an absolutely cursed role. This is the worst role in Europe, by the way. People are still repeating the meme over and over again that support is our worst role. We have a surplus of good supports that deserve shots in the LEC
that just aren't there.
Yeah, they aren't there because largely the narrative is based around this idea that we don't have strong support, so people are either recycling supports or looking to see if they can find good support. supports outside of EU. They aren't really taking tests on a lot of the people who did deserve to go up there, right? Raxo is one of the most immediate ones that come to mind for me. Targamas deserves much more than he's been getting. Steelback's being in Vitality. Hell, Vitality are incredibly stringent when it comes to contracts. They make it pretty difficult as a result for their players to land on teams if you sign a Vitality contract. So if you sign a Vitality contract, you better be confident that you're going to move up within Vitality, or it's going to be really hell on earth to try to move to another team. There are plenty of supports. We have a surplus of them. They just don't end up getting shots for one reason or another, and because the narrative dictates that these guys probably don't exist. Even players like Wisdom are starting to look really, really good in their own right. But as a result, we have a lot of recycling and support that we don't necessarily need. But in top, I can't legitimately tell you, like, this guy is going to be an insane top laner in the future, outside of, like, Shigenda. And outside of Shigenda, I can't really tell you that anyone else is going to be nuts. White Knight is a recycled top laner, but I'm not going to complain about that because White Knight was an absolute rock. Yeah, he was an absolute rock in the ERLs. I remember casting when Big won the whole thing, which only I predicted, by the way. Everyone else predicting LDLC got mad as fuck when I was predicting that Big would win the whole thing, but I knew, man. I always know. And White Knight was actually a big part of that because he was a complete rock. All of these other top laners were massively inconsistent, right? They didn't really know fundamentally what they were doing, but you just have White Knight consistently making correct decisions, and at the very least would never give up a win condition, which allowed kha'zix to go absolutely ham with Lavrov in the bot lane, allowed Zazie to play phenomenally. He enabled all of this and didn't allow Donarts to be exposed. But no one really would like think of White Knight as anything more than someone who got his shot in the LEC and it didn't work out, and so now we're never going to see him again, right? Faxi comes to mind as someone who suffered from that as well. But I'm glad he got a shot. He's actually really good. And in the pantheon of top laners, he can actually perform. So...
I respect White Knight as a player. I mean, he's a player that's been around forever, man. Like when I fucking was originally going to like Europe to play in like season 2, he was just like one of the best AD carries in the region for a while. So it's
I forgot about that actually. He was rank 1 at one point as well.
He was rank 1 AD carry and he was a monster. Yeah, he was a monster. So
he actually
how old is
subbed
White
in.
Knight actually? Oh, he's only 24.
Millennium. He subbed in for Millennium as a mid laner at one point though. With like a champion pool of like 3 champs that all got banned. But yeah, I remember that one point. It was like him and Moops at the time were like the fill players on the EU West, but White Knight was like the consistently rank 1 fill player on the EU West. Moops ended up being AD.
He's well, if you can play every role, right? If you're a fill player and top lane is the weakest role, like you said, it makes sense for him to go there.
Yeah.
So
no, it does.
So I just did like my short list here of my 1 to 6. I started with Wonder, went down to kha'zix as my lowest one. I just want to know if like, do you agree with this like overall 1 to 6, or would you have Gen X under kha'zix? I feel like everyone else is pretty hard to move.
I think I'd swap Whippo and Odo. I don't know about Broken Blade. Broken Blade Gen X kha'zix is actually a difficult one. I think Broken Blade got a bit too much hate on his TSM time. I always saw a lot of flame going his way on Twitter, but the games I watched from Broken Blade, I don't think he was anywhere near as good as IWDominate. I think there's a pretty significant gap between the top 3 and the bottom 3 here, by the way. I at least agree with those groupings. But I don't know if I think, okay, so I actually agree with Broken Blade there. I would maybe put kha'zix above Gen X.
The thing
I think Gen X has a lot of potential there.
I think that for me, the thing that kha'zix just loses points for is just like, it just seems like he's a one-trick play style type of player. At least last year in Europe, it felt like you have to get this guy on like a split pushing carry or just a carry champion in general, because he literally just, for some reason he was just allergic to playing tanks. Like it's like you couldn't get this guy on Orin for the life of you, and that to me just like seems like a pretty big flaw as a player. Whereas at least like Gen X, when I just remember his games, he was able to play a lot of the top laners that were like more stable. And I just give him credit.
I mean, he played Ornn is what you mean, because he played was like the Gen X champion for that. Sure, yeah. I'm not sure if I would put that entirely on kha'zix himself though, because that did seem like a big team decision, and the times it didn't work out weren't even kha'zix's fault. Right, like kha'zix ended up for the first part of the split, especially not just being on carries, but being on really heavy weak side carries, you could say, like Vladimir, who need a lot of time to ramp up. Kel need a lot of time to ramp up, and he got that time himself to ramp up. But then like Patrick, who did have a good split overall, or Torre or someone would just like face check and just die, right? And then the enemy would get a fight, they'd be able to accelerate the game. Once Vladimir starts hitting his spikes, the game's like too far behind anyway, and that always ended up seeming to be the problem for them. I think you're right that they didn't necessarily put him on like a lot of tanks. So he had one game on Cyan and he had a couple of Gangplank games, but he didn't get to show himself as like a utility player. But I'm not even sure that top lane was really a utility role at that point. I think last season,
especially in Europe, because
yeah,
I mean, Europe wasn't playing a lot of the carry junglers that would be paired with that like utility style top laner, which I feel like was, you know, a kind of like something that put Europe behind at Worlds. Once the Worlds meta kicked in and everyone's like, oh, actually Kindred, Graves, and like Nidalee are OP and you need to pick them with the tank top. Like in a lot of situations, it felt like Europe was like, oh, like we thought these champions were bad the entire split, so...
Yeah, I really dislike that about European jungle in general, by the way, that we were going really heavily for ganking style junglers still, and that you only basically had self-made understanding that Kha'Zix and Graves were like the shit right now.
Yeah.
I
never liked kha'zix as much, but I think Graves was like pretty OP. Like kha'zix to me always felt like too slow as a carry jungler. Like I it's just like the 1 to 6 being so bad compared to Nidalee, Graves, Kindred, all those champions.
Yeah.
I feel like is scary to me, but I don't know. It's just my own personal preference there. Not really.
I mean, we'll get into jungle after this, I guess, because I can have a lot to say about jungle for this list. I actually really like the junglers that we got in. I think the only thing I would definitely change of your list, knowing this, then would be Odo for Bwipo. I think that's the only definite thing I would change on your list. Damn. I can see the argument that Gen X has shown a bit more in terms of play, so I think Kryze can do a similar thing, but obviously I can't prove that to you based on his LEC performances last split. But there's another player that immediately comes to mind for that, which would be Aroma, right? Where for me that was definitely a case where his team forced him into the playstyle that they've always understood a top laner needs to do. Whereas before he joined Splice at all, he was actually predominantly a split push heavy player. Yeah. And then there he was forced very much into tanks, etc. I will say that if you're gonna have someone coming in on their first split, it is better to do like what Vitality were doing, which is just letting all of their players play whatever they are most comfortable on to build their initial synergies. Which, if Excel were doing that for their first split with Kryze, I think that's a really good thing to do for them, and I wouldn't want to penalize Kryze for that. And I think Kryze performed really well on that playstyle. And I think on this team, he's going to be able to perform with that playstyle as well. But I can understand maybe making the argument that Gen X has shown that he can play multiple styles. I just don't think he can play either of them as well as Kryze can play the one that he's shown. Yeah. So for me, I'd put Kryze over Gen X.
Okay, cool.
But I can understand you putting Gen X over Kryze.
So I think that we're like pretty much agreed. So this will be like, we can obviously get into like the exact numbers once we start like discussing like, so what I want to do is just like try to figure out. So if this would be my list, your list would be pretty similar. Like Bwipo and IWDominate would be switched, which I'm sure that like when we start rating these players, we'll get to like the differences there. But where do you think the other players would fit into this list? Like, so I'm just gonna say what my interpretation would be. I would think that Agresivo would be towards the bottom of this. Segenda would be like, so if I just rated these four, right, independent of the first list, I just looked at the next four, I would say it would be Segenda, and then this is what I would rate, but I would go Armut, then White Knight. Actually, it could be White Knight, then Armut, and then Agresivo last. But this is where your expertise will kick in. How good do you think these players are in relation to each other, and then in relation to the list above?
Yeah, I have to type these out for myself now.
Yeah,
so with her.
That's the whole point, man.
Broken Blade. By the way, in my head, the riskiest ranking we're doing here is Broken Blade. By the way, I haven't seen enough of Broken Blade, and I actually really should have, because I ended up spending most of the time prepping for this, going over the TCL games of the players who were in TCL, because I hadn't watched any TCL at all. Sorry, any TCL fans in the chat. But I haven't watched any TCL fans at all. For the last 2 days, I've been going over those games. I actually ended up neglecting going over Broken Blade's time at TSM. For me, he's the riskiest one to just kind of agree with you blanket on rank there. Sure. He could end up being worse than Gen X and Kryze, and I wouldn't necessarily be surprised. I also look at this, and I think that Segenda contests with all those three. And I think White Knight would contest at the very least with maybe Gen X. So inserting them into that list is possible for me. Now with Armut, I got like whiplash on my own opinions. So I know that I was drunk watching the Mad Lions versus
what you thought
versus what's it series. Yeah, no, I thought, oh wow, this guy's actually pretty good, no? And then I watched it yesterday while actually sober, and and I was thinking, wait, what? So levels 1 to 3, Armut had a much better system than Arome did for sure. Yeah, Arome frequently just fucked up third wave crash over and over again and put himself in terrible positions in doing so.
Yep.
But outside
he doesn't know how to
of
play
that,
top lane.
yeah, outside of that, I mean, yeah, so we'll get into that. I know that you famously hate Arome. I'm not going to do like a strict defense of him.
It's not as much that I hate Arome. It's that like I just what happened between me and my opinion of Arome is like I was just like never really that high. Like I never thought he was that good. And then I had every single Mad Lions person in the world, like, because I had Kaiser on my show.
They go hard on this shit, yeah.
And they always would tell me, man, like, you don't understand. He's actually really insane. It's just that, like, he needs to fill this role for the team. I'm like, what? You need to have a bad player on your team to like get confidence, or what is the role that he's filling?
No,
it's like, no, we need the tank weak side player. Dude.
Okay, yeah.
And then as soon as they have the opportunity to get rid of him, he's gone immediately. Like they don't even think twice. They're like, yeah, we're gonna replace you with the guy that shit on you at Worlds. Like, come on.
No, so first off, I actually don't think he's shot on him because when I was watching these games, I think level 1 to 3 Armut played better. Yes. Yep. But then outside of that, and the 2 waves after that as well, because he actually understood that you have to be all in on the wave if you end up doing like a cheater recall. Yep. Like his Shen game, he did that properly. But outside of that, generally the decisions that were making Armut get ahead over Arome was Arome being dragged in for TPs when his lane is in a bad state. Sure. Arome never getting help in scenarios where his lane is forced into a bad state. But he was also given a lot of free stuff by Armut there, and Armut's reaction to similar situations in team fights were actually worse than Aroma's. Aroma's actually was playing these team fights overall better. There were even times where Armut would just straight out get caught and then be inconsequential in the fights. I don't necessarily think Armut is like, well, I don't think any of these players are completely cancer bad. I think the role is cancer bad, and a lot of these guys are gated in development because of it. I think when I was looking at that, a lot of the things that made Armut seem better were mostly just because Arome wasn't able to get like high CS numbers, and he was losing those because he gets dragged into these fights, and he's getting dragged into them the exact same way that I saw IWDominate get dragged into them when he was on Splice, and the same way I saw Vizichachi get dragged into them when he was on Splice. So I would actually agree with them. Yes, I think that something that is stifling either the development of the players that you are taking in top lane or players who are already developed who are very good at other things. Like IWDominate is actually phenomenal if you do play to him. That's what we did on H2K with him. That's what Schalke ended up doing during their miracle run. That's what anyone who's ever had proper success with IWDominate has actually done, is just play really heavily for him. I think I'll take them at their word for it. It's you guys that are stifling this because your understanding of top lane is fucking dog shit. I actually don't think Splice have ever figured out how to use a top laner properly in any context. And I view Arome as another victim of that because this kid's coming in, having finally gotten his chance when he's slightly past his peak in the ERLs. There was a time when he was phenomenal, which was back when he was on the roster with kha'zix, Zazi, and Labrov. Yes, they're not big. They were on a different team altogether. The name of whom is escaping me now, but the guy who built that roster also built Origin's BCN roster that just randomly turned out to be utterly insane. So AOD has now got a job because of that scout. Like, I think that this guy comes in and gets put in with a team that has never known how to even use actually proper good top laners. How the fuck is he going to end up developing, right? And I won't try to tell you that this guy was actually a hidden beast the whole time in there. I just think he never got the fucking chance to do so. And I don't lay that necessarily on Arome. If these guys really do want to take the responsibility of that they have a system where they believe top lane is, fuck it. I'll let you claim that, because if so, your system is absolute fucking dog shit and is ruined top laner after top laner. And after that, you just fucking cut him when it's your fucking fault. So I'll gladly let them take that. I'll be fucking pissed at them to Kingdom Come for it. I'll view Arome as a victim of this.
Yeah.
I think Armut needs to develop. From what I've seen, he definitely needs to develop. He has a better early laning phase than Arome does, but in every other circumstance he needs to develop, and I don't think he'll get that here. And I think we'll end up being disappointed with Armut as well and wondering what happens to the guy that people drunkenly remember as being a god. Or at least I was drunk. Where would I really put White Knight above Janax? I feel like that's unfair to Janax if I did that, but I do think White Knight's really underrated.
I feel like they're going to be really similar players.
They are.
That's how I view them.
I feel like in that pantheon, though, White Knight has shown a lot more variance in playstyle with a lot more individual success, right? So I feel like I probably should put him over Gen X, even if I think Gen X could develop into a better player than White Knight over time. I think Gen X has, if White Knight's watching, sorry, but I think Gen X has better hands than White Knight overall. I just don't think Gen X has the experience for me to say that he is better than White Knight right now, right? So I would put White Knight over that, which for you causes a problem because it puts him over Kryze, but for me it puts him under Kryze still.
I mean, that's fine. Like I said, I'm going to defer to your rating on these players. Like, I'm going to essentially rate the top 6, and we can see where we go from there. So, and it's okay if, like, you have players slightly out of the rank that I have. I mean, I think generally we have, like, the same groupings.
Yeah.
It's just that, like, I think that you have, like, I think Gen X and Kryze should, theoretically, in these ratings, have, like, pretty fucking close ratings. So, like... Yeah. I'm just going to throw out arbitrary numbers. Like, if to me, Gen X is like an 80, Kryze is like a 78. And if for you, Kryze is like an 80, then Gen X would be like a 78. I think they're both like serviceable, decent players. So when I just look at this immediately, I think Wonder is going to be low 90s. Bwipo for me is going to be low 90s. IWDominate is going to be high 80s for me. Broken Blade is going to be mid 80s. And then Gen X and Kryze are going to be like low 80s to high 70s. Segenda is so good. I mean, when I saw him, he was actually pretty impressive. But it's just like when I look at all these other players, like I've literally watched easily over 100 games of all these players, except for Kryze, who I've only obviously watched in summer. But the other 5 players that I'm rating, Wonder, Bwipo, IWDominate, BB, Gen X, I've seen hundreds of games.
I want to clarify something as well.
Sure.
I am rating how good I think they are right now. In terms of who I think is going to end up developing to be really good, say at the end of the season, I would actually be tempted to say that Segenda's going to compete with Bwipo and maybe even overtake him because I think he's that impressive. I wouldn't say the same thing for Aggressivo, but I would say that for Segenda.
I think that this one, maybe I'll just drop my rating in, and then...
I just have such a low opinion of top lane that I'm really tempted to give him like a 91. That's what I'm thinking about, and doing everything else.
So I gave Alfari a 91.
Really? I'd give Alfari like a 94, 93, something like this.
Damn, so you'd have him over Wonder and
Oh, for sure he's over Wonder. Yeah, for sure he's over
Wonder.
Damn,
respect. Okay. For me, I just I value just the consistency of Wonder and just like the ability to perform in
consistency and Wonder in the same sentence is a very strange thing to hear.
I think that he actually was the second most consistent member of G2 last summer. Like when I look at the games, like he wasn't the same Wonder where he was just like kind of fucking running it at random times. Like it felt like Caps and him were performing.
Well, I would agree with that. That's because consistency and G2 don't really go well together at all as well. Like G2's entire playstyle before summer was entirely based on making their lanes as volatile as humanly possible, right? And they actually ended up creating some really impressive macro scenarios that only they were thinking about because of this. But they ended up in summer for most of it kind of going back on that because it's like their understanding of how to play jungle was one where your laners had to not necessarily be volatile but play wave states better so your jungler can invade and shit like this, which I don't actually agree with as a philosophy at all. Actually, volatility helps you play for jungle, but we can get into that when we go to the jungle thing. But I think in losing that, you lost a lot of the best aspects of G2 as a whole. I think Caps is really consistent on G2. I would argue Mickey X is the second most consistent on G2 after that. I think Jankos was monster inconsistent in summer because he just didn't really know what to do.
I thought Mickey X was pretty inconsistent in summer for Mickey. I mean, part of it was obviously the Perks was inconsistent, but then when you looked at
Perks was really
Perks was just bad in summer. Like it just is what it is. Like he's my favorite player, period. But I thought he was like relatively bad in summer. It just felt like because there was just no connection between him and Mickey up until like some games at Worlds, it felt like they kind of started playing together. It felt like they both started being bad individually. Like you look at like the angles that either of them were taking, and obviously you can't know what communication is within the lane, but the way that they were like reading situations in lane, it'd be like, oh, so we're just getting solo killed at level 1 now. And what was the one? Do you remember when they got solo killed? They were like, I think it
was when Perks was on Lucian and he was on Rakan.
No, I'm thinking about the one where I think they were playing like Caitlyn Thresh into like Braum Jhin or some shit, and they got solo killed by maybe it was Fnatic. There was some lane like that where they were playing Thresh into Braum with like a Caitlyn, and they ended up getting solo killed in lane. It actually just triggered me.
So I actually watched Mickey X's Pro View a lot, and so I'm obviously going to be defending Mickey X here and saying that it's probably better that Perks went back to mid lane. But whenever I was watching, there were a lot of instances where it's like the enemy support is actually running it down, or the enemy AD is actually running it down, and Mickey X capitalizes on that. And as Mickey X moves up to capitalize on that, Perks just ends up moving backwards. But objectively, this is something you should be punishing, but only one person in the lane is recognizing this. Now, obviously, you could start talking about communication, etc., but objectively, both of them should be punishing this, and only one of them is. And so even though that turns into Mickey X dying and then Perks dying, I think Mickey X was still objectively playing consistently well, even if it wasn't coming out in the results. And it's because I always look at stuff like this, where like what objectively should be going on here and who is actually recognizing it, that I end up with the opinions that I have on players that aren't necessarily performing really well in the here and now. And it's why I don't fall into this whole idea. Like I see some people in your chat when I was talking about White Knight, or when we were both sucking White Knight off for a bit, being like, yeah, but you can't really know if he's this good because he hasn't played against like a higher level of player. Well, no, you can know if the decisions that he is going for are objectively good or not on a consistent basis. You could say maybe you see more instances where there could be a bad decision to recognize, but if you're consistently recognizing those, then that means you recognize those versus a good player as well, right? That doesn't suddenly change. Jungle is a really huge example of this as well, right? So I'm comfortable, honestly, in my head saying that Mickey X I still believe to be a really consistent player, even if the performances themselves were inconsistent from a 2v2 perspective. I don't put that on him at all. I think his recognition was still really good. And I think at Worlds he was fucking smurfing, by the way, not gonna lie. I think at Worlds he was fucking smurfing it.
He played really well at Worlds. There's no denying that. I think Mickey X was probably the best performing G2 member after, I guess, because Caps had the highs, but then he also was getting solo killed by Showmaker's TF at level 4. As Silas. Like, it just feels like a lot of people kind of write off those games when they talk about Caps. They see him like Giga Smurf, and then they're like, nope, he's Jesus, he can do no wrong. Where overall, you know, he wasn't the best mid laner at the tournament, right? Like, Showmaker, I think, outclassed him pretty heavily. I think that him and Angel were okay together. And I think Knight actually played pretty poorly at Worlds compared to like what I expected. All right, so let's go into Blippo and Odo. Like, I know that we're gonna both have.
I'm switching it. I'm switching it to 93. Fuck it, because I realized that I don't feel comfortable putting Odo below 90, which I'd have to do to make it relative to Wonder well. So I'm doing that.
Okay.
And then Whippo for me is below them, and he's literally at like 85. So have fun.
Oh wow. Okay, interesting. Damn. Yep. I value a lot of things about Whippo. Like, yeah, I know he has like a bunch of like flaws within his gameplay, but I think that overall, like, just his playstyle is something that, you know, because a lot of this comes down to like preference, right? Like, even though he plays like super volatile and he makes like bad decisions at the time, like really,
and he gets solo killed by Romo repeatedly in the same game, who's a guy that you famously don't like, which is going to be my key argument.
But I mean, then again, like, if people want to talk about a Rome, this guy got fucking dicked by Finn, who everyone was saying was horrible last year. He got dicked by Finn in like 3 games in playoffs. So yeah, I mean, it's tough, but I think that Bwipo just in general, he forces enough action, and I think that he like makes more map plays, which I value a lot as a top laner than other top laners. And yeah, that's just like one of the reasons I'll always respect this game, because I feel like he does like put impact into the game.
Yeah, but it's inconsistent impact, and if you can't be consistent in lane as well, then things can go pretty badly in terms of that impact. Bwipo is best when he's played to, because that masks how inconsistent his laning actually does end up becoming, right? And I do have to say that there have been times where I've had to like defend Whippo really heavily, and there have been times where I've had to say you guys are really overrating this guy, because he's not the second coming of Christ, but he's also not a terrible laner. Like, for example, when there was that period where Fnatic were only playing towards bot side because Broxer could only be one-dimensional and play only to bot or only to top. I thought Whippo got way too much flack there because his wave would be in a bad state due to matchup, and it would never ever get fixed, right? But there are also times where he messes up the wave state himself. There are times where he goes aggressive in periods where he really shouldn't, and obviously we can say that volatility can be good sometimes, but this isn't like when Wonder does it, right? This is like there's no actual reason to be doing this, and you just expose yourself and the rest of your team to a potential win condition on the enemy now. Luckily, you've given it to a Roma, so it's not going to turn into anything. But give it to someone good, then it could end up being really fucking bad, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like when he got absolutely dicked in the fucking Orange Scion matchup versus top. I mean, 369 like actually was able to make Scion look turbo broken in those games.
I will never try to say that any of these players are the paragon of consistency. They aren't. All of them you can point to bad spots. There's like a Wukong game I can think of for the Odomne. There's like a Kalista game I can think of for Wonder. All of them have had bad spots, but they don't necessarily have them as consistently as Whippo has had. I think Whippo's good. I just don't think he's that good. And I think that him being top 3 for me now is more about the state of top lane as a whole and losing Alfari and all this shit, rather than him necessarily improving dramatically in that regard, right? So I have to put him there. He would not be top 3 if Alfari was still here for me, right? He wouldn't be top 3. He'd be 4th or 5th, which is where I think he's consistently been. So yeah.
Sure. All right. So Broken Blade, I know you said you don't have like a huge opinion of.
I don't know.
You can do whatever. I think my ratings might just end up being on a higher scale than yours.
Yeah, because I have Sigenda over him, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
But it's also like, I'm kind of taking your lead on that, but I can't necessarily take your 85 from him because that puts him on the level of Buffo that I don't like. I also feel like my ratings change more dramatically than yours as well. It's going to be a bit of a weird thing here because I can't put him on 85 as well. I'll see what happens with the rest of them, and then I'll put Broken Blade there. I don't know why I'm committing to. It's because I have to have a list, right? I'm glad we're doing it as numbers now. Because maybe I'll just end up skipping rating Broken Blade at all. That's fine. Because I think when it comes to Sigenda, yeah, I'd just rather be honest and say that honestly, like I haven't watched enough of him, and I should have watched enough of him. I just legit forgot that he existed. All right, so maybe it's on him for not being memorable enough. So Sigenda, I would have to put right now at like high 70 something. Like I think he could end up being really fucking good, right? I think he could end up being at like 85, high 80s for me.
Wait, so you have Sigenda at 78. So you think like Gen X and Cries are gonna be like low 70s for you?
Yeah, they're gonna be in 70s. So I think it's gonna be like I'm happy to like have them all in 70s and do something like this. Yeah. I hate how that looks. I don't know why.
So for me, I was gonna go for this before you did it.
But this actually no, I like how this looks now because I do want to emphasize the drop off that happens after these guys, right? And I think there is a pretty big drop off, right? And doing this, I think I'm comfortable going 90 on Odo. So I think something like this would be really good. And then I'd say like, yeah, this role sucks. Please get better, guys. Right? get really good by the end of the split, please, because the role is shit. Oh, Hear It. We haven't done Hear It.
Yeah, we haven't done Hear It. And I'm not sure like how much
he's probably gonna start, I'd say. So
oh really?
I don't have that confirmed, but I'm pretty sure he's gonna be starting. So I would rate him anyway. I think we just have to play it safe with all of these. But for me that's really simple. I'm just gonna put him at 69 and everyone's gonna meme because I made the number.
Okay, perfect.
Someone in chat said, shouldn't he be better than the person he's starting over? He should. Okay, but he's not. So
what the fuck? So you want to put Hear It on the list?
Yeah, I mean, I forgot the third reason that I'm sick, which is also that I had to watch all of these TCL VODs and the fucking Mad versus the series again. But yeah, like but like I bet on this before, by the way, when it comes to Hear It, because Hear It was a major driving force that people thought was making LDLC good, but that wasn't what was making LDLC good at the time. It was Steelback that was making LDLC good, carrying the entire fucking map by himself with some of the best map play I've seen by any support in Europe. Obviously not the best, both Mickey X and Hylissang are better, but literally we have to go towards players like that who are godly at the map before we get to people who are like over Steelback in that sense. And Steelback was masking a lot of Hear It's issues. Like I will remind you guys that Hear It ended up picking Lucian into Bando's fucking Gangplank and getting reamed on that. Like this guy was not good at laning then, and I watched his TCL performances and he's still not good. There are two areas where I don't think he's very good at. I think he keeps messing up waves in favor of trades and scenarios where he really doesn't have to do that at all. He's not as good as Armor is on the levels 1 to 3. And his target selection in team fights is some of the worst shit I've seen. He's literally like playing it like a fucking AD carry, hitting whatever's like nearest to him, but playing as like Aatrox as set. Like Misfortune will be right there and he'll ult refresh. You know, shit like this was going on 24/7 in his target selection in team fights, and he just permanently will just push and roam for pressure, right? Which obviously for you, I think because of your Bwippo thing, you're gonna at least like that he's going for stuff like that. But he's doing it in really unnecessary times as well, which just indicates to me, along with the fact that whenever I do see him actually try to side lane instead of just pushing and grouping over and over again, he'll just keep going for like platings and towers on tier 2s in scenarios where the enemy has so much priority that he's obviously fucking dead and there's nothing his team can get from it at all. Like, he makes so many of these consistent errors that I easily think he's the worst top laner going in, and he's worse than Aggressivo, because that one of the thing Aggressivo is really good at is his side lane understanding, and he's good at it in a way that I haven't even seen like people like Sigenda demonstrate, because Sigenda will rather just not die ever, because he knows that he needs to carry all of these noobs. But he'll do stuff like he'll buy an insane amount of tempo for his team to make a better play on one side of the map on stuff like Akali and so. But that requires a level of side lane understanding to do that effectively and not just be like, you know, running it down. That a lot of players don't really demonstrate. Hirit doesn't understand anything about styling. He just tries to bypass that whole thing entirely. He could get away with that on TCL. So yeah, I think that if they do start Aggressivo Hirit, I think it's the wrong choice. Yeah. I want to go on the record right now and say that, because I've been criticized.
Who do you think is gonna benefit the team more if you have, like, I mean, I guess the argument there would be like, so if you do have a jungler like Razork, who, like, to me he's more of like a pop off type player. So if you have that type of player that can potentially gain big advantages, wouldn't you want a player like Hirit that just creates like more volatile situations and is more willing to roam, because Razork is like potentially going to have more chance to carry the game? Where if like you put Aggressivo versus the top 3 top laners or anyone, like, isn't he just going to get shit on so hard that like they won't be able to play the game and he's not going to make anything happen around the map?
So first off, I think that the lane will be much more volatile if Hirit's in it, irrespective anyway, because I think he's just going to put himself in bad lane states over and over again, and Razork's going to have to respond to that. I think Razork was performing at his absolute best when he had an understanding of ganking junglers that was very similar to Cold's understanding previously, which was that he started being there to effectively juggle waves for his side laners over and over again. So no side was ever really unsafe, right? This was a criticism that I levied at Maxwell when he was in Misfits, that he didn't understand this at a time when the first junglers that understood this juggling aspect were going in. I think with Hirit, you could put him on those good wave states and end up messing them up. So I actually think it'll end up being worse for Razork when Razork showed that he was at his peak. But he stopped kind of doing that in summer. I really don't know what happened with Razork in summer.
Yeah,
it seemed really strange to me. Yeah, like he stopped doing that and he just started being like an AFK farmer over and over again, which was a real shame because he looked really good in that. I just think that maybe he started catching up with the times of how bad for jungle matchup playing that kind of a play over and over again is, but he didn't adapt to the meta that you want to play farming jungle playstyle on. So even though he started playing for himself more and more, he wasn't doing it on the proper champions, right? He wasn't bringing out he wasn't bringing out Graves all the time, right? And his Echo was getting banned, and he wasn't bringing out kha'zix. Yeah, like he wasn't one of those guys. So I think he suffered on that, but I think Hirit will be worse for him in this regard. I think in mid-game, Hirit will be grouping over and over again, and that can be good if there were players on that team that wanted to force repeatedly or something like this. But as far as I know, shot calling duties were a lot on Featherven, at the very least in spring. Not quite sure how that changed in summer, so I don't really know how comms are going to work on that team now. But yeah, this could be why they brought Vander in. Like, I think it'll be worse for Razork that Hirit's there. I think Aggressivo will just be better overall, and then you just have to teach him other styles of playing top lane other than like full carry style, right? Because right now he's predominantly on carries. He has played supportive champions and he has played tank champions, and he's been fine on them. Just not as good as he plays carries.
What did I just do? All right, so I made my my short list of the junglers in LEC currently. I'd be really surprised if you have anyone that's different here. But yeah, you can look at it on stream. So I've self-made. So out of the 6 that I rated, the 6 returning, I have self-made, then Yankos, then Inspired, then Gilius, Razork, and Skeens. And I actually grouped them the same way, where I actually have really high opinion of Inspired. I think Inspired is extremely good.
Really?
Yeah, I like the way Inspired plays. Do you think that he's bad? Or do you think that he's not like anything special? Because to me, I felt like he had pretty much all the boxes checked off for a jungler. And
really?
Yeah, in terms of like reliability and stuff, like it seems like he's the type of guy that actually can play everything, pick it up. Like obviously, like mechanics I think are on point, and you know, for me, I think that this is some guy who's going to be like top 3 jungler in Europe for a while.
So I think he's had this issue for a long time, basically ever since he came in, and the issue is that he's really good at the creative ways that he decides to fix bad map states for his team. The problem is that the bad map states are because his first clear is always as bad as it possibly could be for his laners. He seems to clear almost entirely based around jungle matchup, but doesn't account for his laners' requirements on first clear. And as a result, you end up in some really tough spots for his lanes, which he does try to do a good job of fixing on the second clear, but it has to end up being inconsistent at that point, and it does end up being inconsistent at that point, whether you're going to do it well or not. And when you are trying to fix laner states on that, if you are playing farming junglers like Graves, etc., then you just open up your other side of the jungle to potentially bad shit going on from the enemy jungler, right? And you end up having to trade the tempo that you got on your first clear that you optimized the jungle matchup to try to fix the rest of the map. And I think he's continuously had this problem, whereas junglers like Selfmade, for example, are really good at taking both things into account. And I think now we're adding junglers that can also take both of those things into account as well. And I think this is an area that Inspired really needs to improve on.
Yeah. I mean, I'd just say that, like, overall, his strengths would compensate for that, like, well more, because he's just able to find situations. Like, I feel like when he looks at the map, he's able to, like, understand immediately where he should be. Like, what, like, he doesn't make the same mistakes that I see out of, for example, the bottom three here, where, like, he doesn't pick the wrong side to be on, or he doesn't prioritize, like, the wrong lane. Like, I feel like his intelligence about the game and, like, the jungle role and understanding, like, where he needs to be, who needs to be ahead.
I mean, I think he demonstrates that, but not on his initial setups. And as a result, his team ends up playing a bit from behind. I prefer how he did that to compared to, say, how Xerxes or what was that guy's... Oh god, I don't want to say beginning with N, but what was that guy who ended up playing for? Yeah, NG. There you go. Yeah, because I had the exact same issue with him. Was that he was very good at fixing the fuck up that he caused by his jungle play in early.
Well, I thought NG just was terrible. Like, I had
he was terrible. No, he's genuinely bad, right? And Inspired's not genuinely bad or anything like this. But NG also, like, NG was able to make good picks in mid game, which is good because they're always playing mid game from behind, because their jungler did like the worst clear I've ever seen in my fucking life every game. Like, I kind of view Inspired as like a far better version of that, because he's already trying to fix it from second clear onwards. And in this regard, I do like him, and I think he shows his understanding there. But if he doesn't show his understanding on this first clear as well, you end up starting every game on the back foot and having to trade tempo in ways you don't want to trade tempo on jungle just to fix it all. So I can't really put him that high up, but I'm typing all the junglers down right now. Someone in your chat said that it sounds like budget Jankos, but Jankos didn't really always show this. He was almost too good about his laners, if anything.
So I think Jankos is actually like the opposite of that, where his first clears,
exactly.
His first clears are actually really intelligent. Like, he's probably one of the best junglers at identifying, like, what different options he can do and, like, assessing the best one. I mean, famously, he was really good at, like, the pathing into, like, level 2 ganks. Like, I just remember seeing some of the paths that he did where, you know, he's such a psychopath and that people would just get caught off by it and it would just screw them over completely. So I remember, like, in one of the series, I forget what it was, he was playing set, went red, like, they cleared the Wraith Ward, so he knew that he was safe to walk that path. So he goes red, level 2 ganks mid, and at this point, like, no one even knew that set could really even do Wraiths with QE. So he did level 2 gank mid, burns the flash, and then does his Wraiths, and most people would just expect, okay, well, now he has to go do Golem's Gromp Gromp blue to be able to be level 3, and then maybe he'll come from topside. Does Wraiths, comes back, gets the kill mid, and it literally just ruins the game for the enemy mid laner, because that is such a ridiculous like path that, you know, you'd never expect. But the idea to go for it in that situation, being able to, like, realize how valuable that was in that specific matchup with an immobile mid laner, and especially, like, because there's a Wraith Ward cleared, you know, like, I feel like that is just such high level jungle pathing that many people just wouldn't go for. So I feel like Jankos is really good in his first clear, and then he ends up actually falling off after that because he is simply just, like, worse mechanically than some of the junglers at this point. Like, I would say that by the end of last split, he probably was, like, middle of the pack in terms of, like, just overall individual mechanics, but in terms of, like, early pathing and, I guess, ability to play in really high level games, he was just ahead. And I actually think that the higher you go on the jungle ladder, so, like, when you play in super, super, super good games, like top tier games, I feel like that type of understanding of jungle and, like, early pathing matters more than just being, you know, somebody who can take over more of the lead because you're not going to get the same advantages. So
I agree, which is why I don't want to level like a huge amount of praise on Inspired. I think he can end up being really good, but he definitely needs to work on this aspect. On the Jankos thing, I do agree with you, and I do agree that he's losing his hands, he's getting old. All right, I agree on that as well. But I also think that part of why the game starts falling apart after the opening salvos from Jankos is because Jankos is the absolute best jungler in the LEC when it comes to playing for whatever is best for his laner's states, right?
Of course.
And stuff like what you just described is only getting significant advantages because it's a matchup that gets completely ruined if he was to do this sort of thing. He doesn't just by default do like a mid-level 2 gank or something like this, right? He doesn't just by default do like buff gromp and then gank tomp or something like this. He does it when he knows it's going to influence the lane state in a way that destroys this particular matchup. He's the best in Europe at knowing this. Because of this, he loses tempo on his first clear. And you couldn't do that this season. After they got rid of rubber banding, you just could not do that, right? And so I think that as jungle has moved towards this more efficient and effective style, that's what's been punishing Jankos, because even his strengths are going to go against him at this point. Because if he does that, you'll end up falling behind on XP and you're not going to fucking catch up anymore, right? You're not going to catch up. So I think it's not just that he's losing his hands a bit. I think it's that the strengths of him become a weakness at this point.
Yeah,
and
he was always that type of like jungler that was more focused on influencing map states than pure efficiency. Like
exactly.
That's why he was like the first Blood King, and you know he was like he's a Lee Sin Elise player originally. That's now playing.
He was the Elise player.
Yep, and now he's in the fucking Nidalee Graves meta, and it's like, what the fuck, man? Like I actually just have to prioritize 2 cans. And number one, I don't even think that this jungle meta is healthy. It's actually the jungle meta I like the least, just as a player, because I feel like it lacks skill. It reminds me of Season 6 jungle meta, where every single game, the best path, regardless of what happened on the map, the best path every single game in Season 6 was full clear, crab, into enemy grump. Because you could do it every single time. You get level 5 off that clear at that point. And even if the enemy jungler got like 2 kills bot lane or 2 kills top lane, it actually didn't matter because he would be level 3, you'd be level 5, and you'd just have such a big lead. You'd be level 10 to level 7 eventually because you'd keep on cycling your camps in the same way. And it just like doesn't allow for skill expression. I feel like at its core, jungle should be about what Jankos does. Like there should be some balancing of efficiency for sure. You shouldn't be able to just path like a complete ape and get away with it regardless. But I think that ganking and influencing lanes should always reward you more than doing camps in the right order. I feel like doing camps in the right order is, it should just be like a baseline understanding that all junglers have, but not necessarily the defining factor on what makes or breaks a game.
I mean, you should do now, and Whipper would hate hearing this, but you should play for jungle now. Like, objectively in this season, you should. Especially after post-swing, they made the XP changes. Because
especially
on those
the 9
XP
to 13.
Changes, yeah, like what happened when they ended up making those changes is something very significant, which is that essentially if you do like a 5 camp clear, an enemy jungler does a 3 camp clear into a gank and a successful gank at that, you'll always be ahead on XP if you did the 5 camp clear, right? So it's not even worth thinking with those kinds of early things in mind. So even if Jankos does it as efficiently as possible, he'll end up putting himself on the back foot. And you should be playing for jungle right now. I just don't think they ever really figured out how to properly do that on that team, which is a real shame. Because some of the smartest map plays G2 did were based around things where the jungler ends up playing a bit more sacrificial, right? They were all to do with like laners and tempo when it comes to lane-based stuff, and nothing ever jungle-oriented. But Jankos enabled all of that. So it's a real shame, to be honest, that Jankos' playstyle isn't really that viable now. It does make me worried about G2 if they didn't just get reckless.
All right, so what do you think about this overall like ranking of the top 6? Or the 6 that, not top 6, the 6 known quantities that we saw last year in LEC?
I mean, yeah, that could actually be the list right away. Self-made Jankos inspired. And then I'd probably put...
Well, I just read you what my list is. That is my list, so...
So I'm thinking about whether I would be comfortable putting Gilius above Razork or Skeens, to be honest. Maybe above Skeens. They're somewhat similar in that Skeens' best stuff was always forcing skirmishes around objectives, but that's like that's the only thing he's really good at, right? And Gilius was very good at being Odoamne's dog for last season. But he is a very good dog, right? He was the attack dog, right? He was the fucking alpha dog that you can't stop barking, That's why we all love his Twitter. But I think I put Razork above both of those. and then Giliath, and then Skeens maybe might be how I'd do it. So it would be self-made Yankos inspired, Razork, Giliath, Skeens. But that's like Giliath and Skeens are really close for me there. And then Razork's like a little bit above them, and then there's kind of like a gap, and then inspired Yankos self-made. So.
Yeah. And what would be your interpretation of the other four? Like just ranking the other four within themselves. Like who do you think is the best incoming jungler to LEC? Do you think it's just Tinks, or yeah, like how do you value?
I mean, but how biased is your chat gonna think I am if I say Tinks? By the way, holy shit.
So this is what I'm just gonna put what I would rate it as, right? Like, and this is with having seen minimal players. Like I would have Tinks, then I would have Elyoya, and then I would have Dan, and then Zanzara. Like I think Zanzara just has no mechanics, so I'd be really worried about him in like a lot of different metas, from what I've seen.
So so I think it would be Tinks, Dan, and then Elyoya or Zanzara. And the problem there is that Zanzara's brain is just so much better than Elyoya's. But the thing is that brain is much easier to learn than hands, and Zanzara. Oh god, there's a player I was about to compare him to, but I don't want to flame him. But Zanzara is.
I need to hear the player.
Okay, he knows I love him, right? Mm-hmm. All right, like if you're watching this, all right, you know I fucking love you, right? But Zanzara has the cage rule problem where he's actually really smart about the game, but he is lacking in the hands department now. But the thing with Zanzara is he's less delusional in that regard, so he actually plays a shit ton of tanks rather than anything else at all. So it's a bit less of a risk. Like this was the Skarner player. This was the guy that lets us know on Twitter over and over again that he was the first guy to bring Shen back into the mix. You know, he's that kind of. He was playing a lot of Ornn jungle and shit like this. He was really trying to make every tank work. Jarvan is the closest thing to a carry that he actually plays. So he's not delusional about the hands aspect, and luckily Riot have buffed tanks to a degree where it's actually viable for him to do that. This is like the best season for Zanzara to randomly come into the LEC. But over time, Elyoya is 100% going to be the better player overall. It's just that immediately, I think in terms of immediate value, Zanzara will give more immediate value than Elyoya. And this isn't me saying that I think Elyoya is bad. I think all four of these junglers are above Razork, Giliath, Skeens, by the way. I think all four of them are above that. But for me, it would be Tinks, Dan, Zanzara, Elyoya would be how I would put it. I think Dan and Tinks both have really good brain and really good hands.
So you think Dan has really good hands? Because I was gonna ask you, from when I've watched Dan, he's been primarily a tank player in the games that I saw. Like I was seeing like Zach games, but admittedly I watched very few.
Really? Yeah, because I think of him as a Graves player.
Damn, interesting.
And he was a Rek'Sai one trick before. That was what he was initially, right? So yeah. Yeah, like if I look at his match history, it's actually like a shit ton of Graves. It's just that the recent games included a lot of Volibear and 2 games of Sedge. So that's where you're getting that impression from. But then if you keep scrolling down, it's just nothing but Graves, kha'zix over and over again. And Fiddle. He was one of the earliest adopters of Fiddle. I remember that.
Wait, do you remember how like pro Fiddle I was? Like I was literally just tweeting out like every single day how broken the champion was on release.
But you don't play pro, so you can be an early advocate, but you can't be the early adopter. All right, that's the distinction I'll make to save myself there. You know?
Of course.
But yeah,
there's times where
he obviously listened to your teachings. You know, that's where you got it from.
Yeah, he must have got it from it. The only champion that I felt like, because like during like in pro play, I remember I obviously like the way it works is if like you smurf at LCS with new champions, people will like pull them out cross region. Like there's so many champions that I felt like, you know, one person plays it and suddenly the whole world plays it. I remember like sometimes like Pantheon in season 4 was a pick where no one was playing a jungle. I just realized how broken it was, and part of that was like that I had Saint, who at the time was a really good jungler that I could bounce things off of. But the only pick outside of pro play that I remember like heavily advocating for and like talking to junglers directly was Skarner in the beginning of season 8. I was such a big advocate of this champion. I thought it was so insanely broken, because like, I mean, at that point I wasn't like an insane player. Like I consider myself in the last 3 seasons to be like low challenger level. Like I've never grinded past low challenger, so I can't say that I'm any better than that in terms of just raw mechanics and solo queue ability, right? So with that champion, when I started grinding on it, I had 70% win rate solo only to Challenger, which is just like a ridiculous win rate to have, right? Like anyone who hits Challenger 70% win rate solo only is going to be considered, it's like, damn, that guy's fucking smurfing on solo queue. And I wasn't delusional and was like, yeah, man, I'm feeling like really fucking good right now, man. Maybe my mechanics are insane. I was just like, no, this champion was insanely broken. Like with Unsealed Spellbook, when it used to reduce flash by like 25%, it was the biggest fucking buff to Skarner ever. Unsealed Spellbook Skarner was like so broken, and you wouldn't even use it to really change the summoner. It was literally just the fact that it reduced your flash by 25% was the most broken thing in the game.
No, but you're gonna love Zanzora, by the way. He's fucking Skarner god. Like, he absolutely loves the shit out of that champion. If Skarner's ever even vaguely good, he's going to see that Skarner is good. You should also talk to him more about, playing jungle with arthritis and how you get around that if you ended up leaning on Skarner because of that shit.
No, so what you do is you just don't play. Like, this is what you got to do. Like, if you're in my position, the reason I used to get so fucking annoyed with the game is because playing jungle in solo queue is literally cancerous if you do it 24/7. If you just take it, like, couple months at a time. Like I played in Challenger for 3 months only last season, and then I just didn't play after that. It's not like I was like, okay, well now I'm gonna grind out more games, or now I'm gonna play a million games. It was like I played, got the rank I wanted, stayed in it, and then stopped playing. That's how you have to do it. You don't play, and then you play hard, and then you don't play. You don't like play and then like try to play different champions, and then try to play Challenger, and then try to play different. Like when you try to do all that type of shit, you're just gonna hate your fucking life. Like you end up literally with depression from playing solo queue jungle only. So
I would be really tempted to put Tinks above Inspired and just say he's top 3 already, because I think he's actually that good. Yeah, I think he's actually that good.
Holy shit. Well, I mean, I'm gonna have no rating, and then you could.
Yeah, but this is the most ballsy thing to do, because whereas I genuinely believe he's that good, I mean, I don't think his team's gonna perform insanely well. If it does, it's going to be very obvious that Tinks is carrying it. He'll be pulling a self-made, basically. But SK is where you go to like really test if this jungler is good. You have to be really fucking good to be able to perform with that team. And self-made passed the test, and now Tinks has to pass it as well. So I think I'd probably put Tinks above Inspired, then Dan, Zanzora, Elyoya, Razor, Gilius, Skeens, and that would be my whole list. But now I have to attach numbers to it, and I'm already dreading that. Okay. I'm already dreading having to attach numbers. Jesus Christ.
So I guess we can start with self-made. We can just rate self-made and then rate Skeens and see where they all like fit in. So for me, self-made is feeling 94.
But Wonder is at 93. Can I really put self-made at 94? I'm gonna have to put him at like 95.
Damn. I thought you were saying that almost as like a bad thing, where you're like, oh, self-made was gonna have to be under Wonder. I was like, wait, what the fuck? Like,
no, self-made is so good. He is so fucking good.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm really glad that he's now recognized as like the best. Right, because from the start of the split, it was like, okay, this guy could potentially end up being better than Jankos, but now it's not like a controversial thing to say he's better than Jankos. It's just a universally accepted thing that he's just
better than Jankos.
Yeah, he's just the best now. I'm really glad about that, and I'm really happy for him. Even though he's probably gonna send me clips of him like chatting shit about me or something, but I think he is genuinely the best. So
somebody is just like. I mean, he's just like a funny guy. You can't. I feel like a lot of people get really offended by people like self-made's humor, just for no reason too.
The clip is like it's because Thorm was going really ham about Nemesis, and he was like, yeah, he's only doing that because Veteran does that, right? So he was like flaming me with that. So yeah, I remember that. But I did end up playing Warzone with him like once, and he didn't say anything bad to me. So there's that.
Oh, okay. So he won't say it to your face because he knows you'll just beat his ass in person.
Oh, actually, exactly. Just completely silent now.
All right, let's go for Jankos. All right. I mean, he's definitely in the 90s for me. Like, no question.
Fuck it. I'm happy to put a gap there.
Okay.
I'm happy to put... Wait, am I happy to do that? Yeah, I'm feeling like a 92 because I'm feeling like giving Tinks a 90 coming in. So, but I don't want to say that he's like, I'm going to put him on a 92 and put, no, actually, fuck it. I'm going to be really ballsy. Put him on a 91 and put Tinks on a 90. Fuck it. I'm going to be really ballsy and do that.
Holy shit.
I hate numbers though. These don't like, it's
this
like,
is gonna be the one, like, there's going to be a Reddit thread because of this list once we're done with it. This is going to be the one that I guarantee the top comments are going to be, yeah, man, fucking Veteran is just biased as shit. Tinks on a 90, imagine. Like, that's your fucking prediction where people are going to lose their shit because it's such like
the last jungler that people were saying this shit about me with, though, like not because I was overrating them, because I was heavily underrating them. No, that I was heavily underrating them was Boxer, right? And it's like there are people who have saved a lot of money if they just listened to me in the first place, all right? So
Hey.
fuck you guys. Like, I'm fully confident on my jungle ones. Jungle is one of the roles that I'm like most confident on when it comes to rating. So
Well, same,
it's just
but for the reason that I play the role.
Yeah, I mean, you play the fucking role, so obviously you don't have a bias to that. But for me, it's like I think jungle is objectively one of the harder roles to be able to assess based on results, especially before last year. Right, it was really difficult to be able to rate how good a jungler was based on just the results of their jungling, right? So it's always going to be the role with the largest discrepancy. So I don't really care if people don't like my ratings.
Okay.
Like,
yeah, I mean, it is what it is. So for me, I mean, we can rate these players, and then we'll throw in the extra guys in a second. I mean, we can just write them at the bottom of the list, and then we'll move them. So let's rate Inspired.
God, I'm tempted to put Dan above Inspired.
Dan over Inspired, you're crazy. Holy.
No, I'm not. No,
well, I mean, I don't know Dan, dude. I don't know, but I feel like Inspired is.
He's way smarter, but I agree with you that he doesn't have like Tinks's level of hands. But I think he's way smarter. Is the thing. I just don't know if I'm. I mean, I'm willing to.
All I gotta say is like
dead even.
When I was grinding EUS Challenger like in May of last year, I played versus Tinks and I'm 1-1 versus Tinks. So if you can't even 2-0 me, how are you gonna be at 90? Come on, dude. and I'm 1-0 versus Selfmade. So hey, we'll take these.
have some more confidence, Dom. You're just really fucking good, all right? You'd be a 90 if you were in the LEC. Have some more confidence.
Hey, back in LCS season 4, season 5, if I wasn't a 90, you're fucking delusional. So that's all I'll say about that. Your best years are
ahead of you. I actually remember praising you when you were in Team Liquid and wherever, but I also remember really laughing when what's his name? Hi, that was it. Yeah. When Hi actually ended up winning in the gauntlet, I fucking remember that shit because he was doing it with like XJ9 guide level jungling.
Well, so... I mean, versus me, he didn't do that shit though. Like that's how people remember his gauntlet run. They're like, look, he was playing like a because Thor does this all the time where he's like, Hi was playing like a Mumu and fucking Shyvana and shit. Like, well, versus me, he literally only played meta junglers. He just played meta junglers like worse than me. And
you're just the final boss. You're just the final boss.
No, I just beat him every single game, and it didn't matter because he was so much better at like shot calling, controlling his team, like all that stuff actually mattered back then, where people didn't have the general idea of like how to play the game. So like the ability to like micromanage multiple players on your team at the same time was like a skill that needed to be had, which I just didn't have like that much of a, like I kind of assumed that that most people had an idea of like how to play the game and like what should be done, and I wasn't good about like actually like I would understand what the right thing to do and like what we should do and like how to call that. I just wouldn't be able to like break it down into like that means you should stand here, you should stand here, you should use this ability. That like I could not actually do that shit and play the game. It just wasn't something
a lot of people can't. It's actually kind of commonplace that people are able to do that in FPS games, for example.
Yeah, of course.
So seeing the complete, like, oh my God, I remember the first time I was actually listening to like professional comms in League of Legends and thinking, holy shit, they are so far behind the FPS scene. It's insane. Yep. And then when Hi was doing it, Hi was like a complete god. I remember that stream that he did. I don't remember if he accidentally streamed scrims or if they were actually allowed to stream scrims at that point. I know there was a time where people were just streaming scrims generally, but I remember people like watching this and everyone was like complete mind blown. And it's like, he's basically just a standard in-game leader from FPS games, but that made him really godly in League. But I remember listening to that and being like, yeah, Jesus, you actually are really fucking, no pun intended, high if you think you should have replaced this guy. He was the glue that held the whole thing together.
Yeah. I mean, I had a ton of respect for this guy. I actually lived with it. You know, it was so fucking weird playing with him in Gauntlet because when he got kicked from C9, he was like super depressed. He didn't want to live in the house anymore. So he actually came to like stay at TL and he lived with me for like 3 weeks. We were like roommates and shit. Like we hung out all the fucking time. And then later on that split, he ended up being like the person that I was pitted against for, you know, for like the shot at Worlds, where it was like, damn, what the fuck? Like you were literally living with me. We became good friends. Like, I went to this place all the time. Like, cause when he moved out, he only moved like 3 blocks away. So he was like one of my best friends in LCS at that point. And then it's like, what the fuck? Now I gotta like play against you? Like, you know, like I was like comfortable like telling this guy anything. And then it's like, oh shit, I guess you're like my fucking enemy. Dude, it's so hard to go back and look at these games.
Right, what was I going to do here? Yeah, okay. I realized I came to a conundrum where I'm now waiting people. I know I'm fine waiting people in 70, so like if I drop him to 80 and then I drop these two to like 70 something, I'm really fine with that.
Okay, so for me, I'm going to go with Gilius at like, so based on my ratings, I think that like I just have I'm going to higher skill, so you're going 78. I'm going 83. I'm fine with that. I actually agree with you on Razor. The more I tried, because like at first, damn, that's so weird. When I started thinking about it, I was like, damn, I think he's like 82 right below Gilius. But for me, I actually think there's a distinction. Like even though Gilius did play around his laners quite a bit, I felt like he had such a big impact in the game, regardless of maybe the fact that he was like playing around IWDominate. And I mean, I think the team definitely played for him a lot. There was so many like kha'zix Shen games that allowed him to pop off. But I think the versatility definitely plays in Gilius's favor. Like he was just able to, you know, go from the kha'zix to Sejuani more seamlessly than it felt like Razor was able to go between his picks.
I mean, Gilius has always been really one-dimensional for me. And there was like when he was on Vitality, there was incredibly like formulaic playstyle that he ended up into.
Yeah,
like we always knew he was going to do. Yeah, he's going to do level 2 gank, then he's going to go do a side lane play at level 6 with them, and then after that he wasn't going to do anything, right? Like, and we knew that those were the plays that we had to counter versus Vitality, and that was why we were like the first team to beat them, because we just knew the exact playbook that Vitality were going to be using.
That was when you were with H2K.
Yeah, I was when I was with H2K. It was just they just had a very predictable playstyle, and Gilius was a part of that predictability. But like the team overall was very one-dimensional, right? Honestly, I think we just won that the moment that we picked Red Side, because they don't know what to do. They don't have full tempo lanes. People are asking about Canyon, by the way, guys. So when I first looked at that team to assess them for like last year's Worlds, I thought Canyon was easily the best jungler in the world, and I still think he's the best jungler in the world. And I think that was a major part of why they were able to win Worlds, was because Canyon was always doing the most efficient path possible, taking everything into account. And efficiency in jungle is basically everything this season. Again, I think the best way to play is around jungle. And so I think he was like the major factor in why they were able to do so well. So yeah, I would have him like, if you had to give me anyone as like a base 100, it would be Canyon would be the closest to that, right?
Yeah.
At least I'd probably put him at like a 99, because I think he's genuinely that good.
I deleted Elyoya. Elyoya you had at, what did you have it at? 81?
Wait, did you delete everything? Fuck.
I think it was 81, right?
Probably 81, yeah. Yeah, probably 81. By the end of the year, I think he'll be better than Zanzibar, though. Hopefully. Hopefully he will be.
Wait, you think Mad Lions is going to be, like, terrible? Or how do you think they're going to
No, it's nothing to do with, like, results-based stuff. It's just that I'm assessing whether he's going to be able to develop as a jungler on that team. I think he would, yeah. I think their understanding of what jungle shouldn't do was at least somewhat good. So I think he can develop well on that team. As long as this guy has people who understand jungle around him, then I think he can develop into a really good player. He already has like the right idea of how to path when thinking about lane states as well as his matchup. He has a good idea about it. Just a lot of the ways that he goes about it are pretty inefficient, and he'll have the habit in some games of tunneling really heavily on a certain lane or something, and he'll end up becoming inefficient because of that. As long as he just gets more consistent, I think he'll be really strong eventually. He doesn't have the fundamental understanding that Zanzibar, Tinks, and Dan already have over him. I can give a really hot take about jungle that anyone who understands EU will understand is like a really fucking hot take.
Okay.
But despite the fact that this guy has done by far the worst networking of any jungler in the history of the world, except for maybe Dan, but Dan got really good at networking recently. Unironically, Shinkwov is still the best Polish jungler that's not in the LEC, and that means I'm putting him over Schlatten, because Schlatten just overforces. He just forces really heavily over and over again, and that's why the higher level that we get to, the less impactful Schlatten becomes, and then players like Ice Beasto and even Pookie Style, and especially Raxo, start to look much more and more like dominant forces on his previous team. Right? I don't think he has like a really strong fundamental understanding of jungle pathing. I think he just forces really hard on a lot of lanes that have no right to end up being gankable, but they end up being gankable because he's playing at a low level right now. He at least has hands, so he can be good, but he's nowhere near along the line that like Elyoya is. Right? Elyoya is on the way to being a really, really strong jungler in general. Whereas Shinkwov has a really good understanding of every aspect of jungle, for sure. He would be better than Zanzibar if you put him in right now, and you'd be competing with Tinks and Dan. And he has hands as well. So,
damn.
He just has the single worst networking I've ever seen in my entire life.
Like, what does that mean? He's just like.
Every player hates this guy. It's insane. Like, if I talk to players, like 70-80% of them just don't like him. Like, and that's really bad because this guy, the last thing everyone will remember about him, who hasn't watched the ERLs, will be his performance in Origin, right? And that will, like, even though he actually performed well in Origin, him and Sartorius actually both performed quite well in Origin because they had the worst record ever in the history of the EU LCS and the LEC combined. People just assume that he must be complete dog poo. Right, so when you have that, you have to be good at networking as well, or you'll end up like White Knight was, which was shafted for ages, or Dan was, which was not looked at for ages because everyone didn't like Dan either if you talk to them. And this obviously taints people. Like you should have been talking to mid laners before Leader had his EU Masters, right? If you talk to mid laners about Leader before EU Masters, all of them just said he was like one of the worst fucking mid laners ever.
People hate Leader.
Yeah, but now they have to admit that he's really fucking good, right? They'll still don't like him as a person, but now they have to admit that he's really good.
Dude, is he actually that like turbo cancer to play with in solo queue or something? Because everyone seems to hate him, but I've always thought he was like pretty decent.
He's unironically L9, so it's like okay, so to give you an example on this, and this is not at all replicatable now. But way back in like 2016 and stuff, I was trying to get this guy as like a substitute at the very least. And even when I was looking at doing H2K and the ULCS, there was one point where we were looking at potentially grabbing him as well. But the problem was that every single time he just failed the behavior check. I think he failed like 4 behavior checks for me at different times. But this is really horrible. After he failed the last behavior check, right? Special got sick on Misfits Premier, which was playing in the UK League at the time, and Riot didn't require a behavior check for any ERL org at that point, so he got to join Misfits, and he just randomly popped off, right? He got like 5 bans every game, and just 1v9'd every game anyway, and they were like, great, we're gonna keep him. Make sure you pass your next behavior check, and then they got to keep Leader forever. And it was like, fuck that shit, man. I like had this guy, and then next season everyone realizes that he's a god. And it's like, I fucking had him. Damn. Like, no one was competing with me for him. They got so lucky that he was just the only guy that was really high up on the ladder that, like, wasn't on a team, right? So they could just grab him to replace Special when he got ill.
Wait, so, what do you think about the narrative around his, like, mage play? Because, I mean, it is true that
Yeah, I mean, I can just answer that straight up, but you can go on if you want.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, because from my experience, every single time that I have observed him, right, like when I do watch the limited amount of games, it feels like I am always seeing a fucking Silas or a Kassadin or a fucking Lucian mid or like anything but a mage.
I mean, if you go back to when I had him on the Elitist United, that was cancelled for amicable reasons, mutual agreement, blah, blah, blah. With Inner Flame as well, I actually had this argument with him. Like, I was telling him that you actually do have to be expanding your champ pool, right? And he was very adamant about the idea that he should just keep playing what is really good for him, right? And so I have 2 thoughts on that. One is that the way that the whole system is structured right now, you are heavily incentivized to stick with what you are already good with. Because if you don't appear in the top 4 at EU Masters, no one's even going to look at your games. No one who matters is actually going to watch your games. No players watch games, right? Asking players about their opinion on LEC stuff gets you some really int shit, because these guys, it's difficult to get them to watch their own fucking games, let alone the whole league, right? When it comes to ERL players, no one watches EU Masters, and staff only really force themselves to watch EU Masters when it's the top 4. Most of these guys have absolutely terrible opinions because they're just blagging it the whole fucking time. If you don't get all the way up there to the top 4 of EU Masters, you will not make it in. So as a result, why would you risk expanding your champ pool when no one will even fucking know you exist? If you don't at least make it to that level, why not just stick with what you're good with? And I think all of these pressures get to players like Leader and end up forcing them to stick with this path. But recently he's realized that that's not his problem. Everyone does know Leader exists now. So his problem is that he needs to play more mages. And now you've seen Azir, right? Now you've seen Azir, you've seen Corki, and he plays other mages as well.
I mean, I just want to see, like, the 2 that I want to see from him that I've talked to him about is, like, just Orianna and Syndra always end up being valuable at some point throughout the season, right? Like, this is just a pick that, like, Orianna, if it's not good, it's like if you play jungle and you're not able to play like things like I guess maybe jungle wouldn't be the best thing to compare it to. I would say it's like playing support and not being able to like ever like flex to a Thresh or something, where it's like it's gonna be viable at some point. Like, you might as well just like pick it up. Or I guess jungle equivalent would be like if you could never play Olaf for some reason. Like there's always a point where Olaf becomes like broken, or not being able to play Jarvan, where always like that pick appears at points. Like you just need to have it in your arsenal. And it feels like Orianna and Syndra will always end up getting buffed to the point. Or just end up being good by the fact that like everything else will get nerfed because the kits of the champions are so strong inherently.
Yeah.
So
I think at the very least you have to have Orianna, right?
Yeah,
Orianna always survives. I think since mana nerf, Syndra has gone down in priority a lot, and deservedly so. Like you can't go Comet Syndra anymore in the current state. But Orianna will just always be there. She'll always be good enough to be picked. She'll always have a place, and she's so malleable in comps. And yeah, I agree with you. Those two at the very least are the ones that you should focus on. I would say if he's going to focus on one of them, just focus on Orianna. I know that he has tried out Syndra and stuff, but I really think he should focus on Orianna. So yeah, but he's doing it now. I hope it's not too late. You know, I really do hope it's not too late. He could have been in the LEC this split. He just all-in on the Fnatic situation, right? There are AD and mid looks so weird right now because so many people all-in on the Fnatic G2 situation, and we're aware about the pieces moving there. And I don't blame them for doing that. So like
Crown Shot.
I respect the hustle from Crown Shot in that regard. Like I understand. I'm not going to completely chastise them for it, right? Like I understand going for it.
I mean, it just must hurt being Crown Shot and being like, so you're saying that Jeskla and Jezu and like I would say he's probably better than Kabi. He's probably better than Neon. Neon played pretty well, but like he's probably like Neon.
Really well.
Yeah, he's probably like Neon tier AD carry, where he's like a good AD carry in LEC, and he's just not able to play next split because of the Fnatic situation. Sucks.
Yeah, he's better than Jezu. For sure. Him and Comp are going to be competing for who ends up being like the next really good thing. I think he's better than Jeskla at this point as well. And yeah, he's competing with Neon at that point. And
Kha'Zix actually. Yeah, I feel like Kha'Zix actually like fell off pretty heavily in summer.
I don't think he fell off like heavily. I think that their understanding of what was strong on bot lane kind of dropped off. And they also had like Kaiser taking center stage in a lot of their compositions, like the Senna Wukong thing, right? But I think when it came to when they finally did pick up Ashe, which they were just like dropping for ages because only Neon had success with it. When they finally did pick up Ashe, I thought he was actually really instrumental in why they are even at Worlds at all.
I mean, they just couldn't play they couldn't play any lane that wasn't all in. It felt like they just need to like all in and commit on the fight, or they just don't know what to do. Whereas like other people like just started realizing that that's just not how like a lot of the like you don't win. I mean, when you're playing Ashe, like at 6 you can win by like just hitting an arrow and all inning. But in lane you play like off volley cooldown and you take like short trades, and that's why like Ashe Thresh was big for a while, but they just couldn't perform in these lanes. That was the lane that they ended up losing into like a Braum. I forget if it was a Mickey X Braum or if it was some Braum where they were playing Ashe Thresh and they lost to Braum Jhin or something, where it's like, how the fuck do you get solo killed in lane level 2 by Braum Jhin with a Thresh?
I would actually say to your chat, by the way, that's currently arguing about Upset versus Crowley. I don't know if you'd agree with me. I actually think Crowley is better than Upset right now. But I have no idea if you'll agree with me. I guess we'll see. Yeah, we'll see then. We'll talk about that a bit later on.
Right, so I guess we should just focus on mid lane right now. So I've done the top 7 that are returning. So you have Caps, and then I have Larson, Humanoid, then Niski, then Abadagi Melitza. I think is like a pretty tough one because I feel like Abadagi performed a lot better, but I feel like Melitza is good. It felt like he had a shallow champ pool in a way, or that the level of his like Corki Azir was much better than the level of his other champions. And then Nuke Duck, I think I'm gonna have Nuke Duck 10th. Like,
off.
I think Nuke Duck. Dude, I'm a Nuke Duck hater at this point. I just thought he was so bad last split. I don't know.
So what I'm thinking. So first off, I agree with the top 3 that you have here, but I think I would I put Humanoid over Larson or Larson over Humanoid? You know what's really interesting to me is that one thing I've characterized a lot about Larson is I think when it comes to front to back mages, he's the undisputed best right now at that.
By far the best.
Yeah, he's an absolute god. What was really interesting for me is I actually think his Akali is also the best one that I've seen. But on any other kind of assassin, he doesn't seem to be aware of either how to play them around teamfight scenarios and go for flank opportunities, or he just loses his nerve in those times. Like there's a lot of team fight scenarios where when he's on Echo, for example, he has really free flank opportunities, but he insists on playing to front to back. With Akali, he understands that you can go in a front to back sense, but just immediately drop Shroud and just buy a shit ton of time for your team. Right, he kind of plays her as a bit of an engager. It's something really unique to Akali. I don't think he's good at the assassin playstyle outside of that. Humanoid's really good at the assassin playstyle, because Akali is less useful than Larsen's overall, because Larsen understands this aspect of team fighting. Though I do think Humanoid's a better side laner. I think I would prefer to put Humanoid over Larsen, because I like Humanoid's mage play as well, and I think he's just a bit more broad. But I think both of them are phenomenal.
And we can just drop this right in and start dropping ratings on them.
Yeah, so Caps' default 97 is what we've agreed to.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, mid lane best role confirmed. There we go. Unless we give Reckless
it's just Caps is the best player in LEC, right? I think that's pretty undisputable.
So then it would be something like 94, 93 for me. Then on this would be how I'd do it. Something like this.
I'd go like this.
Right. I know you have Featherman on this stream a lot, and I know that he really likes Humanoid, so I'm kind of surprised on that.
Yep.
Obviously, you have your own brain. You're a strong, independent analyst.
Yeah.
I like
that,
how...
So Humanoid is too uncontrolled for me for a mid laner. Like, one thing I value really heavily is consistency in the mid lane, and just being able to, like, always be able to perform at, like, a certain level. And I feel like Humanoid just will do more things. Like, he does things that make me, like, really deeply unsettled in game. You know, like, there's certain plays and certain ways that he'll play situations where it's like, oh my god, like, please just stop fucking inting. Like, there's games that jump out at me where I'm like, wow, you inted this whole game away by yourself on Syndra for no reason, like trying to go for flash ult into like multi-man stuns all the time. Like, and to me, that just actually bothers me too much for me to value him super highly. Like, I know he's good. It's just, I mean, all those times where he just actually ints the game alone really, really like fucked me up. Maybe it's because I played with Phoenix and he was that same type of player and I just had PTSD, but yeah.
The times that I can recall immediately of him doing that sort of thing, I recall very few times where they were just outright ints, and I recall a lot of times where if anyone was going to be able to start something on the team, it was probably going to be him, and you were getting pressured to a point where you ended up having to make a decision now, or the situation would just get better and better for the opponents until you're just losing it. And at that point, taking the flip is going to be better, right? Kind of similar to how Whippo had to flip it a lot when Brox was on this team to fix certain wave states. Like, if you don't flip now, you're just making a bad decision. Sometimes he would die there. So I remember those kinds of times. I don't really remember that many times where it was just an outright int from Humanoid. I just think his team had a large problem until they got Ashe on their team when it came to recognizing engage potential. Yeah. I think their bot lane was the only one that really understood that, even though they had a Roam on tanks. But I also like how, even though I put Larsen below Humanoid, I still rated Larsen higher than you. So that will be how I justify it to Larsen himself if he complains again. So remember, he complained once when I put him below Humanoid. So did Nemesis and look where he is now.
So where do you have Niski in comparison to Abadage, Melitza, Nuke Duck? Do you have Niski right under these top three as like a fourth?
It wouldn't be right under.
Well, not right under. I just mean right under in terms of like as the fourth best above Abadage, Melitza, Nuke Duck.
I need to see these names in front of me. So
yeah, go for it. So I think Blue will probably be the worst one.
Yeah, I think Blue is the worst.
What about Vedio? How's he developed? Because I remember, so last time we talked about him a lot because I knew nothing about him going into like the Spring E Masters where he was in the finals. Wait, did they win? They won, right?
Yeah. Yes, they won.
Yeah. And you pretty much framed him as somebody who was like a Zoe like LeBlanc like 2-trick at that time, or like main. Maybe I'm getting this wrong, but that's at least how I remember.
He was initially a 2-trick on those champs, but he more or less mains those champs. He also mains Cassio really well. So in terms of gameplay, this guy he finds a lot more windows for aggression that are correct before team fights happen on champions like LeBlanc and Zoe. He's really good at finding those kinds of windows where you can suddenly make a pick and start popping off and play really aggressively in that regard. And I like that he pushes his limits in that regard, but that's pretty much the most positive thing I can say about him compared to like all the other players here. Yeah. He's not like as strong at side laning as a lot of the players on here, including Nuke Duck, where side laning is one of the only things that he does well still. Although he does that really by the book. He's pretty random in a lot of these other regards. So he's a very untethered player right now who needs to be tethered in. You know, he needs to be reined in and he needs to be taught an intelligent way of playing the game, because right now the best thing I can say about him is that he is aggressive. But at least he has hands. and he can lane well. And both of these put him above blue for me. But I don't think I'm going to put him that high up on the list. He's nowhere near as complete a player as Shekolad is. Right, Shekolad for sure is the most complete player coming in here. And when it comes to Niski, I thought he got quite overrated on Cloud9. I'm not gonna lie, I thought he got really overrated on Cloud9.
I mean, he has just like things that he does really well and things that he does really poorly. I feel like that's how Niski is as a player.
So whenever I've watched him on Cloud9, people will point out that he gets priority that allows Blabber to do his job, right?
No, he just like the wave.
Yeah, so he'll either. So I remember on Zoe, for example, he was getting pushes that there's no reason why he should ever be able to get these kinds of pushes. And if you just abandon the wave versus mid laners in Europe, they're going to heavily fucking punish that. Right? You can't just do this sort of thing in Europe. A lot of the ways that he was able to play for jungle are just ways I don't think will work in Europe. So even though I think that he's potentially an upgrade, on your team? yeah, but that makes it worse for Selfmade. Like, I mean, if over time he's just losing out on someone in midsection, I think that's going to be worse for Selfmade overall.
I think that Niski is the type of player that he does read the map really well, but he will overcommit on roams and stuff like that, and will end up down in CS. And we got to see that in playoffs, right? Like, it became the type of thing where it's like, oh, so now Niski is just like down in CS because he's going for like dives on Azir, and he's like, when he tried to play Azir or Orianna, he was still trying to help his team more than I think is like required. I feel like he has that instinct to roam like over and like be selfless, and I feel like it's to a fault at this point. So if he's able to like reel that back in, I don't think that he's like an irredeemable player. I just don't think that he has the potential to be top 3 in Europe right off the bat. He'll definitely have to improve. Let's get this Niski rating down. I don't know how much you watched of him in NA. I'd say that in the context of LEC, I'd put him at about an 84.
I actually think 84 is fair. I actually like that. I think that's fair. I think I might even put like 85 or something, just because I'm thinking about what I'm going to do with the rest.
Okay, Abadage for me is 82. The thing is, I can't be too recency biased on Abadage, like, because I feel like he did, for the majority of last season, like, run it down. So I feel like people...
yeah.
Like, he did run it down for, like, 75% of the year. Like, he was probably the worst mid laner for 75% of the year. And then at the end of the year, he was playing pretty well. But
yeah, and most of that was online as well. A lot of people were putting it as, like, online versus offline. But no, actually, if you look at his online pantheon, in terms of just results-based analysis, you still can't
probably bad.
Yeah, like, it was the team shifted around him and allowed him to play the way he's always played and just not get as punished for it as he was beforehand. Also, his champ pool ended up changing as well to accommodate for it. It's harder to just sprint in on a Orianna than it is on a Kali, right? So I'm comfortable putting Shekolad like 5th right now, and I'm comfortable saying that he'll be competing with these guys by the end of the season. So he's kind of like Sigenda in that regard. He's mid lane Sigenda. Honestly, Rogue really lucked out with the roster that they got in their secondary. It was so fucking good having Shekolad and Sigenda on the team. So what I'm thinking right now is what I want to do with Melitza.
Yeah, Melitza's a hard one to rate because it's like he was really good on the champions. He mained, I guess, like the Zero Corki was above the rest of everything else he played, and he was the sole carry of the team. Like, I don't think Vitality is getting. How many wins do they have? 6, 7 wins, something like that. I don't think they're getting that many wins without him. Like, he's probably responsible for like 3 or 4 of them, 4 or 5 of them, something like that. But
I disagree on that. I think he got worse the more that I ended up watching, because I did watch him for some of the reports that I was selling in the off season. He was really running it down on a lot of these team fights. But I think the most impressive part of Vitality for me by far is their bot lane. I thought their bot lane as a 2v2 bot lane was really fucking strong, actually, and it didn't get looked at as much as I guess it should have. But I also thought general consensus was that their bot lane was really strong as well. So I was kind of surprised to hear that you thought Melitza was the only carry on.
Well, I don't think that he was the only carry. I'd just say, like, out of the games that they won, how many of them were just like him absolutely popping off? Like, especially the early game. I mean, maybe that's just my memory though. I'd have to relook at it and say, let's see. The Com
Labyrinth bot lane won a lot of 2v2s against really top tier teams. I thought there was a really big gulf. When Melitza was really good on Giants Gaming, he legit just had Razork playing the most famine jungle playstyle I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. So I'm tempted to just match your 81 here and then put Abadari on the 79. I think that might be... Nah. No, Shekolad's better. Just go 80 and then go 78. I fucking hate numbers, man. Do I really want
That's
to
the
put?
point.
Do I really want to put Nuke this low?
I have a really low opinion of Nuke Duck. I just feel like he wasn't able to, like. I mean, I think Jack. So the problem that I have with Origin last year is that I feel like Jack Troll was really bad, and Nuke Duck I thought was pretty bad, and I thought Xerxes was playing really bad by the end of the split. So it's really hard for me to like put any of them super low because I think all of them were like relatively weak.
It's so hard to rate VTO. Because, like, I feel like he has more hands than Abadage, right? But he just has no brain, but so does Abadage, so I guess. I'm never doing numbers on my stream, by the way. Holy Lord, this is so... I'd be
hard.
fine. I'm perfectly fine just putting, like, a list of, like, 1 to 10 of this stuff. I can do that really easily, but you're
But I feel
asking
like
me
this is more like...
numbers.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's definitely the easier thing to do. And like this, I'm not saying that this is like necessarily good or more accurate or anything. I just think that it creates better discussion to like assign a number with how good you think the player is out of 100. Because I think it's a lot easier to say. It's like, damn, Caps is better than Larson. Everyone knows Caps is better than Larson, right? But how much better is Caps than Larson, do you think? That's the thing that's hard to contextualize, and that's like the point of the number is just being able to like kind of be like, okay, well, in relation to other players, how good do we think these players are?
I mean, yeah, Caps does it all. Like, Caps is untouchable right now. Perks would be the guy that would be touching Caps. No, don't mean that.
Okay. I like that. Wait, what?
What?
Never mind.
I feel like this puts VTO as being like, God, man. Like, I do believe in you, VTO, if you do end up seeing this. No one will ever clip this part of it for you, right? But I actually do genuinely believe in you. All I see right now is, like, raw hands and not much else. So, I hope you learn. I would take the risk on VTO, but I would probably have given him, like, another year. Similar to Diplex, right?
Yeah,
I take
he's
the risk
young, right? Isn't he 17 now?
Yeah, they're both quite young players, and I also think that I need to see more from them to know that they're more than just their aggression and their hands, right? That they can develop properly. I also want to see VTO do it on more champions, and I want to see Diplex continue to do it on more champions, right? I just want to give both of them another year before you drag them into the LEC. They could turn out to be the next Sheko. Like, I look at this and it's like, there's no way that he's this close to Sheko, lad, right?
Yeah.
I hate numbers, man. Numbers are evil. Numbers are the devil. The biggest lie, all right, is the idea that stats are unbiased. All right, that is the biggest lie on the planet. Stats simply signify bias, and they are an unbiased interpretation of bias.
Okay. All right, so that's our 10. Interesting. All right, I guess we can go to AD carry. We can move on.
Yeah, we can get into AD carry. I hate this. Yeah.
you hate it so far?
I just hate applying numbers to all of these. It's all good. It's all good. I'll make it. All right. I'll make it.
Can I put Kabe above 80? It's hard when you start rating everyone else because I can't say that Kabe right now is better than Karzi, Hansama, Patrick, Upset, Reckless. Can't.
All right, just write them all down. Jesu needed another year for sure before moving in. I don't think his laning is necessarily there at all. And I think if he's not playing front to back in team fights, it starts to look quite suspect. He doesn't seem to know what he's doing if it's not a straight top front to back fight. And obviously ADs would prefer it to be front to back, but it's not always up to you. And when you're not in that situation, your decision making says a lot. This decision making in those scenarios just isn't really there. I think he came in too early, which is a shame because I actually really liked how the guy is developing on Misfits Premier. And I'm really worried when it comes to players like this who come in a bit too early, like potentially VTO and maybe Jesu, that one bad split they have will stick with them forever, like it did for Shinkrov, like it did for White Knight, right? Like I get worried about that a lot. Like it did for everyone who ever signed with Misfits as a rookie.
Even Maxler, who ended up popping off as a rookie, ended up going to the dumpster eventually. There's something about signing with Misfits as a rookie. Wait, didn't Hansama sign with Misfits as a rookie though?
That was the biggest waste of money ever. Yeah, Hansama did sign with them as a rookie, so he's one of the only ones that was able to escape it. But that roster of Maxwell, it was like the biggest waste of money I've ever seen in my fucking life. It's actually insane. That was one of those things where I had
like about the Gorilla roster?
Yes, that was one where I had a really big hot take. Yeah, I had a massive hot take about that because I was really specific with it. Because I was literally saying that team has no one who understands to engage unless Soaz is on either Nar or Jarvan, right? And after the initial 4 games that they won, the only games that they won were with Soaz, either on Jarvan or this one Silas game where he was against the Jarvan stealing his ult over and over again. Those were the only games that they ended up winning. And then they obviously ended up taking that roster apart, right? And fucking over their rookies for it. But both Gorilla and Maxlaw are terrible at engage. Flash Wolves understood this the most about Gorilla, which is why they banned all of the AD carries that had engaged to stop Prey from hard carrying.
Ash.
Yeah, like they actually understood this dynamic there. So they had no one who was ever willing to press the go button. And Soaz had been on a team like that before when he was lost on Fnatic. And that Fnatic team only won when they had Nara Jarvan on it. And Missus should have known that because Missus played against Soaz on that team and banned Nara Jarvan to win that series.
I mean, people don't understand that, like, at Gorilla's peak, like, when, I mean, I guess what people would consider the best, you know, series of all time, or like the series that was the highest above the rest of the competition, was the 2016 Rocks Tigers versus SKT. And that was just all Zyra MF. Like, that was, like, no engaged player supports were being played at that point. It was just Zyra and then MF support to counter the Zyra. Like, it wasn't like they were playing, like, Alistar and fucking Leona and set support. Like, it wasn't like some fucking crazy shit where, you know, Gorilla's going in 1v5. He was just better at, like, laning than most other supports. He's the opposite of kha'zix.
One of the first things I did was apply for the Fnatic analyst thing when they had that contest way back in season 5, or like after season 5. And part of that was that you had to present what you would have presented as prep for their series versus Rocks Tigers. And to make my argument that they should have just banned out Prey instead of banning out Smeb, I went through every single engage that Gorilla had done versus every engage that Prey had done and listed whether it was a success or not. And there were categories based on what would make it a success or not.
That's so much work. That's so
well, yeah, but in terms of, well, in fairness, it only actually took me like 2 days to do in total. Once you have it systemized,
how many hours is that,
it can become very fast. Yeah, I mean, it was probably like 18 hours or something.
Come on, man. That's so much work for just that, like, I mean, I respect it. That's the grind. Do you actually enjoy going that in detail about stuff? Or is it like a point where it's like mega tedious?
I feel like I have to be right if I'm going to be a public figure. So from that perspective, I just feel like I need to do that kind of thing right now. Right back then, I felt like if I was joining a team, you had to be able to present an argument that was completely airtight, right? So I did that, and Gorilla's engaged success was legit like 30%, and Praise was legitimately like 80% plus.
Holy fuck.
So that was, so that became the basis of my argument overall. And I figured it would be something like that just based on the eye test, right? But then having that number in front of me, like, let me know I wasn't completely insane. Smeb was a fake carry for that team for a long time. Prey was the real, like, he was the commander-in-chief there. He was their high, you know? Except that he was legit like 1v2ing lanes as well. I think Prey is the best AD carry ever to have played League of Legends, by the way.
That's a pretty hot take. Most people would, I guess, say Uzi, right? So
yeah, they would, but Uzi ends up being a detriment to his team because
of the playstyle he forces on everyone else. Agreed.
Yeah.
All right, so I did my top 8 for these AD carries. The 8 that we've seen before. What does your top 8 look like?
Jesus, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you have? What do you think is crazy about mine?
We have very different takes on Upset. So I think Upset, especially in summer, and partly in spring, ended up just demonstrating that his consistency in lane is really poor. I don't think he's that good a laner now. And I actually ended.
Why do you think that?
Because I can go really specifically on this because actually Upset ended up DMing me and I tweeted something to that effect. And so I ended up literally going through every single one of his games. But basically he would throw lane states in scenarios where he had absolutely no reason to throw lane states when there was going to be a guaranteed play really soon, kind of like Abadage in mid lane. He would very frequently on the first 2 waves have no clue about how to get like level 2 priority down when he actually wanted to, and he would constantly be up in danger zone when there was absolutely nothing pressuring him to be up in danger zone. No minions were about to die, nothing, right? There was no level to be gained from it. There's nothing to be done there, but he's putting himself in scenarios where, say, for example, Crownshot can just poke him the fuck down the Nezreal. There's an Ezreal versus MF game I'm thinking of specifically for that point. In lane, even though people will point out that he didn't necessarily have a good support, that doesn't mean that he should come back into lane and do a reshove in a scenario where the lane state is really good for him. He's not looking to back back right now, and he knows that enemy junglers are either going to look to do something to him, or that his jungler is moving towards midsection, even if his jungler is on the same side. Even with all of this in mind, he will be the one that will come out from a half roam into River or from control on River and just immediately try to do another repush and then get lane ganked, right? When these are all knowable factors. He's doing these decisions himself. It's nothing to do with Destiny. It's nothing to do with the other people that he had on there. And he was doing these kinds of errors consistently in both spring and summer. This is just really bad laning in a way that Reckless never ever would do, and a way that Patrick doesn't do either. And it's an aspect that he's gotten worse at over the years. I hope that he like looks at it, because in terms of hands, I think Upset has really fucking good hands.
Yeah,
right. And I think he has really fucking good mechanics.
And that's obviously something that I value a lot. I just feel like it's hard for me to look at a player as Upset, and because I mean I feel like I've solidified who he is, like when I've watched so many lanes of his, and then I feel like this last split where I did see those mistakes as well. It's hard for me to look at him and judge him so negatively, even if he does make a mistake, because of the quality of his support, which, like, to me, even though it might not matter in those specific instances, it has to matter in terms of like the overall game, because there were so many times where I would see the way that he would be laning with somebody like Destiny and somebody like Jack Troll, and you could just tell based on his positioning in the lane that he wanted his support to do something that his support literally could not do. Like, it's like, okay, well, this is like an opportunity, like, because I've like auto spaced in this way, because I've got like this traded, this is your opportunity, like now you can walk up and do something, and they just walk up, miss the hook, they do this, and like it just feels like it's so hard to lane with people that are that bad and actually like respect them. Like, I fully expect Upset now coming into the split, and I guess that this is where my Upset rating could be wrong, is that I think that partly for everyone else, I'm just judging how good they are like based on last split and what I've seen them as, and for me, I think that Upset is going to be the second best AD carry, so maybe I'm rating him incorrectly based off that, because I'm not really rating him based off like what he was. It's kind of like a prediction here just based off feeling. So I'm fine compromising and moving Upset down on my list. I think that was factoring in a lot in my perception. Also, it's just like, you know, Fnatic and G2 are normally the top two teams, so it's hard to like not compare them to each other and compare the players to each other instead of like everyone against the field. Like, so I'm down to move Upset down probably one. So I don't know. I think Hansama is really good. I'm assuming that do you have Patrick above Hansama or no?
I'm actually thinking about that right now. I think instinctively I would have Patrick over Hansama if I'm basing it on the recent performances. So yeah.
Yeah, and I have like pretty high opinion of Hansama generally speaking. So I figure that we would be different on that. But I'm gonna move Upset down. And I'm gonna put him in between them for me.
Really, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, so, I think there's a lot of assumptions there based on what will end up making Upset do well or not, right? Like, I think there's just too many assumptions there that I can't take, because I can go over all these instances and it's like, well, even if he wanted his support to do something here, it would be objectively bad for his support to be doing something immediately here, right? There's nothing for his support to be doing, so yeah. Like, even just the way
I agree that in those situations that's probably how it is. I'm not saying that those situations would be blamed on his support. I would say that there are situations that are being missed, and he seems like the type of player where by the end of it, because I've seen times where he played extremely clean. Like those times where I would have valued him above Reckless as like the best AD carry in Europe even. Yeah, I think there's times where I just remember.
By the way, just don't confuse this for a defense of Destiny and Jack Troll. I still think that they are bad, right?
Yeah.
Though I will defend Destiny only to say that I think he was actually better than Jack Troll.
But
that's the only defense that I have. Yeah, but it's like I do think they were bad, but I think that Upset was making errors that just don't matter with them.
Sure.
Yeah. I think Hylissang's going to play like an absolute animal, and that will probably mask a lot of Upset's issues, because either these things will work out and his issues will be masked and the team will end up working out better, because that will free up Hylissang to roam around the map, or they don't work out and we think it's a full fucking disaster. Fnatic could end up being a full fucking disaster, not gonna lie, with the changes that they have made. But that's the flip.
Well, I wonder, do you still think that it's just going to be G2 Fnatic 1-2, or do you think that like Rogue has a chance to potentially like make a shot at it? Because I think the Rogue is the only team that I look at that I'm like, oh, this team could contest for this like third.
If they kept Evander, I would just be saying that 100% they are now competing for second. I think G2 will just 100% be first.
Yeah.
But I right now I would tend to say that Rogue could just compete with Fnatic to be first. Especially if Fnatic just end up collapsing. Like, I think Fnatic will look better in regular split than they will at playoffs, right? Because I think that this kind of playstyle works. The kind of playstyle that their players are going to end up falling into could work really well in single instances. But I think once people have kind of figured out what it is that you are doing and have stopped just shaking in fear every time Hylissang just clicks up towards you, so over the course of a best of 5, for example, they'll look a bit more exposed. And then I think Rogue will be a lot better than them.
Well, so one thing I'm gonna say is, so like I have my 1 to 8 on screen here. This is going to be the smallest gap I'm gonna have between my one rank to my 8 rank. Like I think that these players are gonna all be really close. I mean, that's just how I've always viewed, or not how I've always viewed, but how I viewed AD carry in Europe last split. I thought all of the AD carries were like pretty similar in skill. I thought all the AD carries were actually pretty good. There's almost no AD carries. Like, so I mean, you have these 8, which I didn't think any of them were bad, and then you had what, Crown Shot in here, who was good, and then what was the last one? Oh, Perks, right? I thought Perks was probably towards the end of that. How did I forget Perks? I guess let's start with Reckless.
Yeah, I mean, Reckless is undisputed best. Yeah. I'm just wondering if I put Kazi above or below Hansama.
Oh, I'm feeling kind of crazy on this.
I mean, I'm feeling 97, not gonna lie.
I was gonna go 96. I think he's good as fuck. Like, I don't know what to say. So wait, but that's like saying, so you think Reckless is as good as Caps? I mean, that's fine.
He's the Caps of bot lane, is what I just put here, yeah. Like, here's a really underrated thing of when Hylissang had his MVP performance, right? Like, the really underrated thing is when you watch Reckless, because Reckless is literally just holding a 1v2 freeze for fucking ever. Right, he like the Zyra Khan setup worked out so well for them because it allowed Reckless to do this. But Reckless controlling a lane state that Hylissang gets him in lane initially for so long and being able to be this fucking impervious rock is why Hylissang was allowed to take control of the whole map. The only way he's going to get that with Upset on this team is if he gets a significant advantage in lane 2v2 with Upset and then roams off of priority backs. Right, that's the way he's going to get that with Upset. But with Reckless, he could literally just let Reckless chill in lane and Reckless would be fucking fine. He'd do this, play 1v2 and still end up with a 30 CS advantage. Like, it was really disgusting watching Reckless throughout that whole point. And then his Worlds performance, I think, speaks for himself.
I think the Worlds performance
over the course of the split speaks for itself.
So I mean, I was saying it, but I thought Reckless was the best AD carry at Worlds, like by a margin. Like, I would put him above everyone else by like a couple points if I were to do a rating system. Like
when Fnatic's bot lane looked like it was struggling this season, very often you could see Reckless making the correct decision and Hylissang just running it.
Just running
and forcing him.
Just fucking running it.
And Reckless would have to cancel a recall that was a really good recall to take and then join in on the fight, right? That has now just occurred, the chaos that has just occurred in front of him because Hylissang is must throw hook off cooldown, you know? But you could see that Reckless made... So it's kind of like the opposite of Mickey Experts.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm just so triggered right now. You know? I hate this. This is like my number one trigger is when people are like, how can you say Reckless is the best when Ghost is there? I hate that every single player that wins Worlds is automatically considered the best in their role. Like, how could that ever be a thing, dude? Oh, man. Like, imagine just having that mentality that, like, oh, you win Worlds, well, that means that the 5 best players must be the 5 best individually in their role.
I mean, it hurts. You have to call it for what it is, by the way, which is that it's an argument from authority. Right?
Yep.
If you use that, it's an argument from authority. It's not results-based analysis. It's just an argument from authority. And the authority figure, which is why I didn't like your Phoenix argument, is the org, right? You're saying just because the org put this player on a team that did this well, that therefore this player must be the best player for that team or deserve to be in that position, blah, blah. It's just an argument from authority. It's an extended one, right? So I just don't give it credence, but that's always the argument people come at with, which is like, how can you rate this guy this high when he was on like a 10th place team? Or how can you rate this guy this low when he was on a first place team, right? Alfari got a lot of that last split because he's literally on a 10th place team, right? So, yeah.
All right. I guess we can start just dropping in ratings for these players and see where they go.
I also agree with you, by the way. I think that AD carry is the strongest role in Europe.
Yeah. So I think that we're gonna have like 90. Well, actually, we might have a bigger gap because 96 is so high than some of the other ones. Like, because I guess jungle we went from 94 to like 74. So maybe we could get more than a 20 gap between these players. But it's just because Reckless is so high. Essentially, I think that like the difference between Han Sama and Kabi is like maybe I think right now I'm looking at like maybe 14 points, something like that.
Feels bad. Feels like I'm flaming players when I give them 70, and I really don't want to. But whatever. It's not that I don't want to flame players, it's that I don't think any of these specific players deserve to be flamed. Right? I think they're all good in some way. So this, and then...
Damn, you have Kha'Zix up there. Okay, respect.
Wait for it.
Nah, it's gonna be not. Oh, okay.
Wait for it.
Oh no, it's the upset one. No, that's so crazy. Holy shit. Oh yeah, that's crazy. What?
Now, like I had to be convinced on the upset one as well. I'm not gonna lie, because like I had a similar opinion to you in summer, though I did think Patrick was still better than upset. But I thought they were still top 3. Well, in spring, I mean, I still had the same opinion. I actually had to be convinced. I won't say who ended up like convincing me to re-go over all of the laning phases and stuff like this, but I did have to be convinced of this as well. And once I started seeing it, I started looking for it in summer as well. And then in summer, it was just like on a different level of consistently poor lane-based decisions. But I was convinced by someone that I really do trust when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure.
But,
I mean, maybe
yeah.
I could be convinced of the upset stuff too, but like,
and I will always want to point out, by the way, that by convinced, I mean he convinced me to like re-go over all the VODs
he
and
didn't
stuff.
tell you, hey, this guy's better. Yeah. No, I
Well, he did
understand
tell me initially, like,
oh,
no,
of course,
this guy's
okay.
so overrated. What the fuck? But yeah, so yeah.
Damn, I just
God,
realized
this
that.
one.
So I just put the list of support. There's only one support that is, or actually, I guess it's Trimby. Never mind. There's 2 supports only that are coming in from ERLs that we haven't seen before. I mean, I guess I can rate treats. I don't know if you can rate treats, but I can rate treats because I obviously watched him in LCS and then I watched him in other positions too. So
I do not have a high opinion of treats.
yeah, I don't have a very high opinion of treats too. Like, I like treats a lot too, which is what sucks. You know, I like treats a lot, but I don't have a super high opinion of him.
I'm glad you can admit that then, because like the thing with treats is that every time that when he was in the ERLs and stuff that I was trying to call out that this guy is just not that good, I'd get lambasted so much because this guy is like he's the anti-Shinkrov, right? He's so good at networking, you know, it's insane, and I would just immediately get like filled with spam about how treats is a fucking god just because this guy was so good at making friends. But,
yeah, I mean, treats to me is like a mid to high 70s without even like looking at anything else. Like just when I think of him, if someone was like, don't even rate them all, don't even put them all on a list, just treats, give me a fucking rating, I would be like, yeah, that's like a 78, 76, something like that.
True. Yeah, I mean, I would instinctively agree with you on that. Not gonna lie.
And then we could give him a human rating like TSM, and just put him at a 0 for that because Biofrost is just better than him. So
Oft.
I mean, it's
See him. I saw him
is.
run it down in playoffs. I saw that. So yeah.
All right, so Hillsong.
right.
Oh wait, what the fuck? I almost put Hillsong number 1. So Mickey X is number 1 for me.
Yeah, for me it's Mickey X, Kaiser, Vander.
Wait, over Hilly?
Yep. You have to be honest with yourself about Hillsong's performances. Come on.
Yeah,
they are brutally inconsistent.
Yeah, they're brutally inconsistent, but I thought they were consistent towards the end. So like playoffs, I thought Hilly was consistent, and then Worlds were really consistent for Hilly, which I guess is kind of unfair to the other people that didn't get that experience, right? So it's hard to compare somebody that didn't even make it to playoffs compared to somebody who got to Worlds. But I mean, Hilly was just bad in regular season, and then he was so good in playoffs. And
Hillsong is really good at one very particular kind of playstyle, which is a very pick-based playstyle, right? He's really good on champions like Rakan, like Fresh, like all of this kind of stuff. He's really good on those. He ended up going onto those. Otherwise, teams would literally put him on stuff like Braum because they knew that if he did do his same tendencies that he likes to do on every champion in the game, irrespective of what his role should be on those champions, he'd get less punished on those champions because those are just harder to kill. Right? This guy doesn't have anything but a go button on him. He has no other mode. He has no other method of playing. And it just depends on whether the composition is good for that or not. Now, if you agree with that, given the reasons why you rated Cries lower than I rated Cries, I think you should apply the same standard to Hillsong for sure then. Because on that regard, there's no reason to ever put him up there with Vander, Kaiser, Mickey X, who all have multiple playstyles that they can do. Whereas we know for a fact that Hillsong has this one very specific thing he can do really well. He's kind of like the final form of Promiscute in that regard, because they're both good at the same thing. He's just way better than Promiscute at it. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what ends up happening though is like I compare Hilly the last time that we saw him play against like those. Well, I guess he didn't play against Kaiser in playoffs, right? He just played against Vander. But I mean, they just like dicked. Like he just dicked fucking Vander, right? Like it was just 2v2 kills all over the place. So I feel like even though Hilly is relatively limited in that regard. The fact that that's like it's so applicable to him. Like I feel like there's times where I'll say this. I felt like the way the Fnatic operated, because they had Nemesis in the mid lane who's not going to be like a primary engager or anything like that, and even just like the way Selfmade plays. I mean, I think Selfmade has the ability to engage, but I feel like he just ends up being more of like a carry follow-up player within that team. I feel like Hylissang playing engage every game was like fine because they need someone to do that. You know, like him and Bwipo are the players that are going to be playing engage. And it also feels like you're more like, because right now I'm watching a lot of in-houses, and I feel like there's so many more champions that are able to engage from support right now than other roles. Like when you look at other roles, it'll be like, oh well, like out of the 10 champions, maybe like a couple of them can engage. But you look at all the supports that are good right now, Set, Leona, Nautilus. I mean, it's just like all of them can fucking engage. Even Alistar is played as a counter pick sometimes. It just feels like there's so many supports that are good at engaging. And then if you can also add the Rakan to it, the Pike to it, where Hilly plays like fucking engage Pike, which is, I don't even think the right way to play the champion.
I mean, Hilly plays engage literally anything that he plays, right? Which is why there was so much dyssynergy when the compositions that they were going for was stuff like Gangplank Vega, right? Stuff where you want to be playing really heavy disengage. All of your strength is in zone control. He cannot zone control because he can't hold his abilities. He just doesn't do that, right? Now people are like putting in the chat that like the fact that he carried at Worlds and was doing so well at Worlds is like a counter argument to this. It's not. Like he was doing that on the one thing that he is really strong at doing. I gave him MVP for a split once based on that. Right, but I gave him MVP there.
Summer 2019.
Yeah, but I gave him MVP there, right? And I had a long conversation on Elite United about why I did that. I put him MVP, but I still had Mickey X as the better support, right? Because Mickey X is the better support, right? It's just that Hylissang had more impact for his team. He's just going to be meta dependent on whether he has that impact or not, and you can't do something like just average performance.
I think that a lot of people conflate MVP with being the best, but that's not what MVP means. Where MVP is the most valuable. I always get into arguments with people. People are like, well, how can you have this guy? Like, one person that I think should have been in the argument for North America as MVP, most valuable player, was Closer. Because Golden Guardians ended up getting 5th with Closer. If they have any other jungler, literally any other jungler, they're like a 10th place team. They're like a 9th, 10th place team.
Yeah, this is why I asked you at the start, right? Are we going to do this about performances, or are we just talking about them as players? And you want to talk about them as players, right? Hylissang could end up having like just a nutty set of performances for the whole entire season, but they will be dependent on meta, and they'll be dependent on how the aggression with upset goes in lane, because if that goes well, then he's going to be open up to control the map, and he's really fucking good at that on a very specific set of champions. And if he does end up popping off, that wouldn't necessarily change my opinion of him as a player. It just means that I might end up giving him MVP, but I still don't think he's as complete as like kha'zix or Mickey X.
Yeah, unless you see like a fundamental like difference in the way that he approaches support, which we probably won't see in Hylissang in like his like fucking like 7th season being professional. But if you saw Hylissang obviously playing Braum and Tom Kench and like Janna and Lulu to like a really like precise degree with minimal deaths, then you'd be like, okay, he's just the best.
Yeah, if he starts like playing different playstyles and stuff, then yeah, he starts becoming one of our like the very best to ever play the fucking well kind of guys. His understanding of the map is so fucking good, right? That I wish he could just play well on like other supports as well, because he could end up being one of the best players. He is kind of like high in that regard. He just doesn't micromanage everyone, but the level of impact he has just from his gameplay on the map when he is allowed to do so is so fucking insane. Actually, like I think he's peaked in a way that no other support in Europe has ever peaked. But I still put him forth because just objectively, you can only do that on one very specific set of scenarios. And Fnatic spent their whole time with that roster forcing that scenario as much as they possibly could.
I guess we can put in our first player rating. Wait, so who do you have? Because I have Kaiser above Vander. Who do you have there?
Yeah, I have Mickey X, Kaiser, Vander, and Hylissang.
Okay. I have Mickey X, Hylissang, Kaiser, and then Vander.
And then the rest of them are...
So I would be tempted to just put Labrov immediately below them. Let me just type all of these out. So like, because it's like Labrov, Limit then, and Torre. Actually, I feel like Labrov,
I actually really like Limit, by the way.
Yeah, I think he improved a lot last split. Yeah, I think he did.
I think he was pretty okay. Like, I was pretty okay. It doesn't sound like a compliment, but it is, I promise.
I think he improved. I think I'd be tempted to just give him and Torre like the same score. I know you absolutely hate Torre though, so that's not going to happen for you. But I think Labrov, Limit, Torre would probably be how I'd go. I don't absolutely hate
Torre. I don't think he's that bad. I mean, I think he's fine. he's not as good at engaging as other supports, but I feel like he plays the role like fine. I don't know. I just never thought he was great.
I mean, we're looking at mid to low tier now when we're looking at these placements. Anyway,
Sure.
actually, Denick above limit for me. Denick above limit for me, and
I thought, see, the thing that shaped my opinion of Denick right now is I feel like, so he did get thrown back into a bad situation, but I felt like the games that he had towards the end of the split were like pretty bad. He had some like really awful games towards the end of the split for Misfits.
so I do remember things going badly from like a results perspective, but I don't think Denick was necessarily making like like I remember games where Denick was like hard carrying the early game and then just nothing ended up happening to close out the game, and I definitely would not have put those games on him because they were only ever even in the running to win those games because of him. Like I remember games where he got a lot of negative press, but he was actually like fucking cancer smurfing the early. So.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, he would like cancer smurf the early and then run it down like 4 times, where at that point it's like, how much credit can I give you for smurfing the early?
Well, I thought that a lot of the openings that he found were actually good openings. His team just didn't react to them at all.
Yeah, I mean, and then there was ones that were just like straight int, but it started like being like, I mean, whatever, dude. I'm just happy Jactrol's not an LEC. That's where I'll come down on it. Like, just fuck it, man. Like, I just want to throw that out there before we're done with this stream. I'm just happy that
But oh my god, man. All of the fucking like Jack Troll fans, and I have no idea he has such an immense amount of fans, that when I said that he was like a downgrade from Destiny, that were like hardcore flaming me about how he's going to be the savior they all want. It's like, guys, I will concede that you were completely right, because he did end up bringing Origin into a record-breaking split, right? It's just not in the direction that you guys thought he was going to take that, all right? Like, I've never seen someone demolish a roster that's full of talent as he did. I've never seen that in my life.
There was so many times where I just like, I don't know, my chat will tell you, dude, I had like some hatred, some unreasonable hatred for him at certain times. Like, do you remember, I mean, you of course remember, you remember the Karthus kill steal with the
yes!
kid? I literally got so physically angry. Like, it's been a while since like I've watched League and not been involved, and I've been like, fuck, man, I'm like hitting shit, I'm like, god damn it, like, why would you do that? Like, dude, even my chat just said it. Somebody in my chat says, Dom's still mad that Jack Troll Tom Kench cued his girl. Oh
no, but that is pain as a Karthus, man. That's like Karthus is now feeling like it's gonna win the game.
That's like one of my most played champions recently, right? Like when I went to Europe, I fucking like mained that shit. So
yeah, then you just feel the pain
so deeply, dude. Oh my god.
Holy shit, man. Actually nuts. Like, holy lord.
I'll show. Oh god, we gotta fucking.
So I have Trimby last here. I don't want people to think that I think Trimby is like terrible or something though. But I also don't think that he was like anywhere near the strongest support in the ERLs that could have been brought up. But a lot of the ones that could have been brought up were kind of like gated by other things, right?
Yeah.
Like still back on Vitality and shit like this. So I have Mickey X, Kaiser, Vander, Hillisang, Labrov, Denick, Limit, Torre, Promise Q, Trimby. That's what I have.
Oh my god. Okay. Hold on. Say that again. I'm literally just wait 1 second. I'm just gonna show my chat the Tom Kench Q that makes me want to just fucking end my life, and then we'll see. Here it is.
But everyone should be born with this memory genetically implanted into them. It was that painful.
Oh, holy shit! Oh, okay, we're fine. You're telling me if you had to play AD carry with this guy, you wouldn't want to end it?
Well, Upset was in your chat. You can ask him personally.
Was he? Wait, Upset. Where
yeah,
you
he
at?
was in your chat.
Like, what was he doing it during the ratings or?
He's a mod in your chat, no?
Dude,
I'm pretty sure that was actually him.
Cancer chat, come on. All right. Yeah, no, that's just too much. All right. Yeah, I hate him. Okay, let's it just is what it is. What happened? I was muted. No, we're just talking about how, Jack Troll griefed you, and I'm literally just defending you and veterans rating you at 81. Don't worry about it, man.
He saw all of that. Don't worry. He saw all of that. That was how I know he was typing.
Did you see? I was only 25 CS up. So cringe. Man, this guy's ego is insane. Maybe I should put him at an 89. That 9 in front of his rating is really fucking with him. Call him. Call me. I want to get explained. You want me to add him? You want me to add him?
Go for it.
All right. Okay, this is content right here. All right, hold on.
Hey, Upset.
Hey.
Okay. All right, let's hear it, man. I'm just gonna go AFK for like 30 minutes. Let's get some content going, boys.
It's funny. I was just like in queue, and I look at your stream, and I see the moment I get rated at 80. So what happened, veteran?
Well, he moved you to
I mean,
81.
wait, but you know why? Because we actually had this discussion in DMs.
Yeah,
and you actually
but
agreed on it. So.
But the thing is, I actually just wrote like, you wrote me like 10 paragraphs, and I just wrote like, yeah, I see.
Because you asked me for specifics, because you claimed that you wanted to learn. Then I noticed that. I did notice, by the way, that you got silent after I gave you all the specifics. So do you want to give an actual rebuttal, or do you agree with it properly? Or?
I mean, I would have to read it again, but to be honest, I just didn't want to invest any more time into it because I felt like it would get into like a really fucking retarded discussion that I didn't want to spend any more time on. And now I'm actually here, so I'm still gonna do it anyways. It seems.
Yeah, I mean, you asked, for it on the DMs, by the way.
I was curious, veteran.
What the fuck is that?
Oh, yes. No, I was curious. So I wanted to know your reasoning, but when I saw your reasoning, I was quite surprised by the things you were saying, so I didn't really want to get into a discussion about these things because I was disagreeing on fundamental levels with them. So I just wrote
So what
yes.
is it you disagree with on a fundamental level then?
I would have. Can you send me the chat again? I don't.
I mean, you can just open our DMs. You can just open our DMs.
It's not there. I don't know why.
Okay.
I can send you a screenshot. I literally don't have a single message.
I need to find it.
It's really weird though, because I don't have.
That would be really weird.
I remember we wrote like a while ago, but I don't have anything left. But I don't know. I mean.
Okay, I still have stuff. So. Yeah, I can just screenshot them all, send it to you, but they also have.
I mean, what I vaguely remember is that you said like.
It's fine. I'm a known.
That I was like.
DMer.
Hold on. That I was no. I mean, don't leak anything I wrote, by the way.
Don't leak anything you wrote.
Oh, I mean, just send it to me. Don't like. I don't remember what I wrote. To be honest, I just remembered what it was about a little bit was that I was getting like chunked for free in lane. I think this was your main point.
I mean, here I'm putting in the group chat, so Dom, just don't leak shit on stream again. Yeah, I'm just putting in the group chat. I wasn't gonna put it on
This was you sent me one game there where.
Wait, I mean, this is gonna take a couple of screenshots. All right.
Yeah.
So here, you didn't really say anything bad unless you just don't want to show how you were asking for them. But
no, I mean, then it doesn't. I just need to see it first. I don't mind otherwise, of course.
Here, I guess there's like one part that you might want to censor, but I don't really think it's bad necessarily.
I think, I rather
and then
don't
this
show
is
any
the
DMs of anyone on stream. To be honest,
bit.
I don't think it's good usually.
I mean, it's only going to be bad if one of us decides to report the other after this, to Twitter or Twitch or something. But.
I'm not.
And then here's I assume you're not. Yeah, I mean, and here's the last one. So there.
Okay, so I need to read it, okay, and then we get into a little.
I mean, you need to read it, but you also got to have to like. I can open up some of the games themselves as well because I have the links here.
Okay. Here you sent me a game where I was playing a unplayable matchup, right? It was Aphelios Nautilus versus
I remember you defended
I got
that
zoned off.
But then
I got zoned off level 2 by 4 people, right? And then I died and lost both health. I did do a mistake here, though. That's true.
Yeah, I was gonna say that has nothing to do with the mistake that I'm pointing out, and you also considered that there. So.
No, of course it has something to do, veteran, because if the matchup is not like this, you don't insta-die if you get hit by one spell after you don't have any
but you don't have to get you don't have to get hit by anything there. It doesn't matter for the mistake.
Yeah, you don't have to get hit by a spell, but I can show you every fucking play.
By the way, just to clarify to the people in chat, it's not the case of that I'm saying that he should just like dodge everything or something. He just puts away in a state where he's...
No, I mean, dude, this is true. I did a mistake there for sure.
Yeah.
I was already put in a very bad spot, which was out of my control. Fun fact, actually, in the draft, we said they don't play Syndra bot. We scouted it. But
wait, if I screen share, can Dom show that? Are you fine with that?
No, I would rather screen share than actually. Wait, I just need to read this.
I mean, I don't want to pull up the game.
Yeah, because I just want to... I mean, yeah, sure, you can. So I'll just send you the first thing.
Well, was it
No, dude.
Wait, but what is the point of pulling up this game? Like, what is it going to prove?
What? Because
I just you're an 81 motherfucker. You hear me?
I want people to not just go I want people to go not just based on rhetoric, but also just based on that they can make their own opinion from the actual in-game thing. Or why would you not want that? What's wrong with that?
No. I mean, that's fine. No, but I agree that this was a mistake, yeah.
Because like,
I
this
don't know
has
what
nothing to do with
you have
like
to
coding
explain
skills
how
or
this
something like
mistake.
this, right? So
You have to explain. Oh, it does. Of course, it does. Sometimes you walk in a way where if you dodge the skill shot, it's a good play, and if you get hit by the skill shot, it's a bad play.
yeah, but you know,
the positioning
you've
was
said
bad.
that based on matchup. Yeah, because the positioning is really bad here. Right?
Wait, can you go back and show what happened before?
Yeah, I mean you can.
Well,
I mean, this is why
I agree.
This is why I would rather. This is why I would rather.
Oh, I
screenshot
remember
because
this
I can just
game.
control
Oh,
the
I
whole thing.
definitely remember this game.
This is like one of
this was,
many. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
This is one of many. I think this is the only time I
This
died
is like
in lane
6
to
different.
I just remember. I remember my initial perception of this game was that like just Origin as a team had no idea how to like play around bot lane. Like that was. I mean, I guess that you can look at mistakes, but this is just like the quintessential difference between Mad Lions and
this doesn't change. This doesn't change whether jungle support was bad or not. Like jungle support was not playing well in this at all.
Can I give some context about this game?
Yeah,
Sure.
you can.
Sure.
So, I mean, first of all, the claim that we didn't know how to play around bot is kind of weird because we were actually 13-4 and playing a lot of games around bot where we were killing the bot 2v2, and in playoffs this split as well. We were killing the 90. I don't remember what he was rated, but lane 2v2 many times in a row, and we can also pull up this bot. This was probably the worst game I played the whole year, or maybe even ever. And we were saying that they don't play these champs on bot, and Aphelios is really bad. Was really bad into Syndra on this patch. It was before Syndra got nerfed. In fact, she got buffed before. And Zed was just a new champ that kha'zix was playing, and we didn't know either of them play these champions. I think, or at least Syndra is 100% because he didn't play it in solo queue, so he hit it well. And you can now play the bot and see what happens, and then you can look at the mistake. And then I want to know how this mistake means something in context of my player rating overall.
Because I saw 6 different games.
Wait, can I please finish my sentence? Can I finish the sentence? Because it's 40 games. You did not show me 6 games where I died multiple times. You showed me games where I got chunked in lane, which is often also how you play the laning phase, where you take damage and then you will find a reset eventually. And you can see in my overall statistics that my laning stats in fact were very good. And sometimes I take bad trades, but sometimes that's how you're supposed to play certain matchups where you're losing. You trade your HP to get last hits veteran.
Yeah, but you didn't trade for last hits on a lot of these. That's the point. Like, there's no actual reason for you to be
You
up
can
there on
also
those.
trade to kill the minions to make the wave smaller so you don't get dope or you lose less CS under tower, for example. And we will go through the examples and we will look at them. But also, you can also then look at other AD carries and you have to put it into context, who they're playing with and what mistakes they are making. And then we can gladly look over all the games.
It's true, they don't have Jackal on that team. I agree.
So I agree that
we can also gladly look over the things that I'm doing well and the things that I'm doing that other IDs are not doing. And I think you will probably get a very different idea. But I understand also, maybe I will talk about this later, but let's look at this game. Okay, go back in the VOD and see how I played that very bad. Actually, to be honest, I did play this bad, by the way. This game I played not good. By the way, I did by far the most damage in this game, even though I was 0-4.
Oh my god, you're such a fucking little damage whore. You're actually such a damage whore. This guy, like, you know, like, other people like have like certain porn that they like. They have like their own fetishes. Upset just looks at his CS numbers in lane and just fucking and his damage share at the end of the game, and that's just what he fucking jacks off to. It's so crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I know he does because he's actually but yeah, like I know, like I get it. Like you have nice stats, that's really fine. That doesn't necessarily mean that your playing game is being that exceptional. By the way, like you know that stats are bullshit. You used to accept this all the time before the stats were in your fucking favor. Like you know stats are a bullshit way of assessing things. Like your consistent decision making and a lot.
Veteran.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
on
but
a lot.
Look at the
it
fucking games and how
things.
I'm playing in team fights and everything. And I mean, stats are just a combination of all the games that were played. It depends what happens in the stats and what team you're playing in and how the team is playing around it.
Yes, it does. But I agree on that.
I also am not here to convince you. I'm just trying to give some counter perspective because
but your counter perspective has done.
I don't know why, but I feel some biased. Like maybe I'm wrong, but I mean I saw like the tweets from your best friend. about me, and I also know
Wait,
that you
you're
were the coach of
calling
my team and we
biased?
promoted.
I was coach of you as well. I've had you
Yeah,
consistently.
I know,
pick
but
through
when we
for
promote,
years.
okay, and then suddenly I see this tweet, and now wait, I was top 3 the whole time,
For
but now I
years.
saw something, and now I'm like the 8th best, right? Suddenly.
This is like
guess.
I've been talking about how you dropped off this spot. But you're accusing me of bias. But I have been accused of bias relative to you, but bias in the opposite sense because I was consistently top rating you. What the fuck are you talking about?
Oh,
I
it's just my
consistently
perspective,
rated you S
veteran.
tier. Yeah, and
That
your perspective is
You
just
always
straight
rate
up
me
wrong
well,
here.
and then you rate me poorly, and then I see the
Yeah.
stuff. It just made sense to me in my head, but
So
I
what
could
was
be
the bias
completely wrong,
then?
of course.
Yeah. So why would I'm rating you well,
What's the
rating you well,
bias?
rating you well, and then I don't
mean-
rate you well in one time. So what's the bias there?
Well,
then?
I guess
could you possibly
the
have
argument
done?
that you'd make is like
The bias that it changed after I saw these tweets, when something probably changed between a relationship. I'm not sure, veteran.
With you, we've barely talked.
No, not with you, with the people around you. But to be honest, I don't really feel like it's going to a good place.
Are you saying that
No, but
because
actually,
that was influencing your rating?
No, I have no idea what's happening in your circle. I don't think it's about Thorin at all, and I actually feel like it's being kind of cringe to actually go into drama right now. I don't really.
I mean, you're the
feel
one
like...
that brought this up. You're the one accusing me of bias
because
when I've been rating you really highly consistently for years.
Okay, veteran, I saw certain tweets, and I don't really want to get into drama because I want to discuss the game.
It's so strange that so many people who talk about like certain tweets from me just don't seem to have these tweets.
No, not from you.
here's at least what I would argue real quick.
Wait, I have no idea then.
Well, I mean, here's one thing that I would just like. I would just
show me the tweets. I have no idea what this is about then.
Not from you. I have you muted on Twitter.
Yeah, so. I mean, holy shit, you have him muted on Twitter? Come on, man. What the fuck?
You get triggered pretty hard by criticism, by the way.
I'm just joking.
Wait,
I'm sure you are.
Okay, so the thing that I would ask veteran here is like, because you ended up going, so you had high opinion of Upset, and then you said you went through like a lot of these situations, and it ended up lowering your opinion. It's like, I feel like it's hard to do it then if you haven't done like the due diligence on other AD carries, because like.
But I have.
Well, I mean, sure, if you have that's one thing, but have you actually like?
That's the thing that I wanted to say. Yes, I mean, I
think we should
do because I
prepare on the in-game. Oh, sorry for interrupting. What did you say?
Yeah, I do because I prepared for this stuff every single week for the show, right? Like, it's not just that I watch these things on live and then I just come with base opinions. I always come in, and I'm known for coming in with really specific examples of everything that I say because I just go over the VODs over and over again. Now, the things that were happening in Origin that I wasn't really going on about in Spring with regards to upsets play that my attention to was drawn was obviously a bit of oversight on my part. The reason why that ended up happening is because I assumed a certain level of play from upset at that point. Right? So in that regard, you could say that I had a bias in a completely different direction. Right? I just kind of assumed a certain level of play was going on there, and I was really hyper-focused when it came to the Origin narrative every time of the jungle and topside performances in general. Anyway,
yeah, jungle and mid
so
worthless.
Yeah. So that would end up being most of the content on my shows. But I've done my due diligence on this for every single one of the players as well. It's not like Upset's suddenly an exception. Upset just has like a bunch of timestamps from me from a shit ton of games because he asked for them on DMs, right? So
okay, I would like to actually let's just talk about this personal stuff after, because it's no point of discussing it here. But I would like to see the points that veteran sent me in DMs, because I must admit.
I mean, I've posted.
No, I talked the in-game things. I would like to look at the in-game things.
Yeah,
because you had multiple timestamps, and I want to look at the timestamps and then to see how this justifies the rating.
Yeah,
can we look at all of them?
Yeah, sure. What's the next one? Because I mean, we've seen here like the two deaths later were. I mean, this just looks like.
I mean, to be
played much. Like you're literally just in range.
I mean, yeah, but she's also like.
Yeah, she's super far ahead.
She's one level ahead from me getting zoned of 4 waves, and we TP'd and we killed them, but I didn't get anything from it, right? So I lost like a shit ton in a matchup that I never played before. In a matchup we said they don't even play these champs.
Yeah,
and I already got
the counter. Yeah, everyone thought that Syndrome was just a straight counter to Aphelios because.
No, but people didn't even play it at this time. Like this was like one of the first times it was played, if I remember correctly. It was like still regular season.
Yep. All right, what's the next one we have?
Yeah, so here's the next one.
Okay.
I think this is just him getting permanently chunked in the early level, in the early levels trade here. I can't remember what it is that I typed. What I have it here. You're just
This was
randomly
the
minions on post blind dropping HP for free.
first
I
game
remember
of
that
the
this
split,
one
I
I was expecting you to message me on this one, and then I wanted to talk more specifically about them. But then you weren't messaging me. Oh yeah, I also mentioned here that Destiny trolls you before the dive. But next one.
I mean, to be honest,
here.
he's trolling the whole metro. Okay, let's
I don't
discuss this
disagree.
later
I
first.
don't disagree that Destiny is playing bad on that one. By the way, I
Yeah,
specifically
just,
point out
just,
to that as
just
well.
show the VOD and I can share my thoughts, because I must say you put in quite some effort and I didn't really respond to
Yeah,
you.
I mean, you asked for it as well, so I was really surprised.
Yeah, but I when I saw like what you were sending me, I didn't really want to get into like a very fundamental discussion about how bot is supposed to be played. But go back.
You asked for that, though. But yeah, here.
Yeah, I asked to explain yourself, and then you explained yourself, and then.
Do you want to go back to like the
want to
start of the
discuss
late
further.
phase, like when the minions
Yeah, you
crash?
have to go back to the start of the laning phase,
Okay,
preferably point of view too.
Yeah.
I think my Nautilus skilled Q. Go back.
I'm at 134. You want me to go further back?
I'm just
No,
gonna
this is.
post
I
all
mean,
of
you can't see.
timestamp
The
in
problem
chat.
is you can't see. But yeah, you can show.
So it's like when the minions crash.
What can't you see and why can't you see it? Wait, let me look at Dom's stream.
No, I just don't know if you can see everything, but we can check it out. Just play now.
Yep.
I want a
So my
massive delay here.
Nautilus. So pause the VOD for a moment.
Mhm.
So you could see Naut already got like hit twice, right? Because they actually
Yes.
put a ward in the lane brush and
I know.
and then based for sweeper, which is good, which I actually started doing. I think my Naut is supposed to. Okay, play.
Play from here. After we
Yeah,
get
just
hooked?
play. I just want to be honest, I don't remember what happens, so just play. I think just play out the early
Are
laning
you
phase.
Can you share
next
screen
one.
on Discord while
Yeah, I
you're
can do
streaming,
that.
by the way?
can.
Because there's such a delay on that.
Wait, actually,
It's
Dom,
5 seconds.
what do you can I maybe show this game and I talk over it and pause, and you just look at my screen that I'm sharing?
Yeah,
Or,
I can do that.
Okay, I think it's fine to capture it now.
Okay, just go to the VOD
Please go on.
and then I'll capture it.
Oh
Okay.
my god, please. Yeah, here we go. We're good.
And the
Thank
fact
God.
that you don't use dark mode on Twitch or YouTube means you're a complete fucking psychopath. Number one, but yeah, go for it.
I ain't used dark
So,
mode.
okay, just for some context in this game, let's go to the drafting phase real quick.
Damn. Okay.
Why are we going on to draft phase here?
Give some context to the game. So this meta, it was you played. I think Varus was really broken. Kalista, Aphelios, Syndra was only played. No, it was not. I think it was mainly played mid, but I already played it in Spring Split bot once. But in scrims, it would always go that you trade Aphelios, Kalista most of the time, these two, and then also Varus. But they banned these two champs first, right? And then we played this lane for the first time.
And this
In
is
a
like
long
the
time.
corrupting pot, Varus.
Yes,
meta.
and these two are the best champs. Yeah, this was like a very different meta. So we played something like not super practice, but of course it shouldn't matter. We played like many different things. But usually this meta for us in Scrim was to trade OP champs. But now they went 5 here because I guess they're really strong level 1, right? So they can get this ward. And then they base. So they get a free chunk, level 1, I think. He hooks in. I'm not actually entirely sure right now thinking about this now, because I don't exactly know how strong Aftershock was and his Q, because it got changed like quite a bit. But usually it's not bad to start W in this lane and just tank some damage. Tank some damage, so the wave starts pushing towards you faster. But here you can see we get chunked. I get hit by like a Q here, I think.
Yeah, 2 Qs.
But what I'm doing is consisting.
You need to stop skipping. You need to stop skipping by 5 here, by the way, because like a lot of these pulse strings that you're doing, there's nothing at risk here on the mini wave at all. And there's no reason for you to want to immediately do damage to the wave. There.
You have to understand, veteran,
because you might get dove here.
No, I will not get dove because my Gragas is pathing bot to protect me, and if I play Thresh vs Ezreal behind my creeps here, the wave will stay here.
I think
the thing is, wait, please let me finish. I'm getting hit. So the waves aggro them, so they're not stacking 3 waves in a row into my tower. Because that's how I played a lot of games with Thresh. because Ezreal is actually stronger AD than MF level 1, especially if I start W, especially if it's a thresh on this patch. So what I'm doing here is getting hit in lane, so the lane pushes into me. But if you just look at it, it looks like I'm just inting trades or taking not favorable trades. I do admit though, I got hit by an extra Q here, which I shouldn't have. Like this Q.
Yeah,
was not
that
good.
won't happen from the queue. Yeah, that's the thing. Like
this is like okay, but actually it didn't look good, right? But you see all the melee creeps chase him, and this wave is pushing faster. And I'm pretty sure I don't lose a single. Yeah, so I got chunked here, and you wrote me the note that this was bad, and I got chunked for free.
The wave was already moving into you anyway.
It's moving faster into me, so I don't lose a single creep of experience, which you would see now.
Yes.
I need to get hit, so the wave pushes faster into me because that's how minions work, right?
I understand
so now
what you're saying.
I'm playing versus Stretch, and I didn't lose a single point of XP, and my HP is okay, right? Like, let's see how hard I will lose this lane for getting chunked here.
Destiny ends up trolling you and you end up getting both. But
so my support's going top here. What is happening here, by the way? My Naut is under his tower. When this guy jumps into the wave here, okay?
I know. Legal, I even typed that to you.
Now I'm walking back when my jungle is top. So what your note was for this game for me was that I got chunked. And it was bad, but in fact it was actually good what I did to get the XP.
AA is good. The Qs and stuff are not good, and there was no reason for you to even be up there for it. You'd already been autoed on that. Like you didn't have to get hit by that Q either. And I did say to you that I know that Destiny trolled you before the dive there. By the way, like I did say that.
I mean, yeah, no, that's what you said. But the Q pulled the creeps, and I didn't lose a single creep of experience when we're weaker level 1 playing versus Thresh. So, from my perspective, it's not a bad thing. I did probably get hit by 1 Q too much, which is fine to say, but it doesn't make me an 81. That's just
Come on, man. You're so salty about the 81.
No single one. That's just really fucking disingenuous. You know that no single one of
no, of course, it's many things.
Yeah,
but
that's why there are like
this
loads
was
of
a mistake. But telling me I got hit by an extra Q is not something I'm gonna discuss like much. But now I came on here to talk about it.
It would be really weird if that was like the only thing I sent you, but you're hyper focusing on one thing.
Veteran, don't worry. We will go through all these games, by the way.
Yeah.
And we will look at every single thing you wrote me that I did wrong.
I know, but
then we can look at why you rate me like this. I will gladly do it. And then I can also maybe give some context and some games. And we look at some things I did, and then maybe we will get.
Let's go on to the next one because but then can you? But then don't do something. But then don't do something like say like okay, I'm getting chunked by a shim, but like you can't put me an 81 for that. Like just don't do that on every single individual one because obviously I'm not putting you at for like any individual.
This was obviously a comedic aspect of me discussing.
Yeah, but comedic aspect.
This is not what I'm.
Yeah,
this is obviously not what I really think that I got hit by you. That's why you put me 81. Of course.
Yeah, I know.
But wait. Let's first agree on this one. So, you could discuss that I got hit by 1 Q too much. It did pull the creeps into him. I mean, potentially, but getting hit by a skill shot can happen, right? Sometimes you get hit, sometimes you don't. I play to dodge it. Okay, but I want to see how this lane plays out because I just got zoned of XP. Let's skip a little bit through here. Okay.
I mean,
I'm not even going to discuss what my teammates are doing. This fight, what happened here?
Oh yeah, just watch it again. Oh yes.
So this was a great play. What's this? Ezreal just flashed in, by the way. No, he eat on top of him. Now he's in our jungle. I'm losing farm for moving here, but it's okay. The Ezreal played it well. I could have flashed there. So now he pushes the bot wave. Okay. He had nothing, by the way. Q was up. I mean, okay. But the point of this game that you sent me was that I got chunked.
I stopped it after the Destiny troll viewing game because you were asking me about laning phase specifically, and it's like, well, okay,
yes, but would you still say that this was like a big thing actually, or did you think that what I did was good now that
because you were asking me for examples, and I literally just started watching every single early.
Okay, but would you say after I showed you this that it was a mistake that I took autos there to get the wave into me and I was 80% HP with the pot up?
You got chunked way more than you should have because you were positioning in scenarios where you weren't even being pressured. For sure. Yes, that is still a mistake.
Do you understand that I'm doing it on purpose? Of course, I could stand here.
I understand the auto logic you're using, but the auto logic doesn't work on the other things that you're getting chunked by. Like, I do understand.
Yeah,
that.
it's like
Look,
one
it has pulled the creeps, by the way. It pulled the creeps. All of these 4 creeps here that I'm pointing at got pulled by him
Calm
for
down.
queuing me here
I've
and
already
walking up.
told you that I understand what it is that you are saying. Okay, I never thought that this was a big thing because I looked at this. I'm giving you a shit ton of examples there because I looked at all of the early laning phases and just pointed out anything that was there. And then I saw Destiny troll you and even fucking sent that to you. And then I stopped watching the rest of that game because you weren't even face up and I moved on.
I'm not talking about.
Just go to the next game. Just go to the next game.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't understand why we're not just doing.
Okay,
We're just going to repeat the same things over and over again. We're just trying to put like a nice slant on them.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't agree on this. You're just trying to put a nicer slant on it.
Well, my
perspective
perspective
was like from my perspective, it's not really like a mistake. From my perspective, it's good what I'm doing. That's why I'm saying you sent it to me as a mistake, but now after looking at it in detail, I think it was a good situation.
Okay.
Let's move on. Agree to disagree on this one. Let's see this one. Actually, this laning phase was not the best. I mean, to be fair, I mean, I don't know how much
play
you
more
would
of
see
the laning phase though. Play more of like because I don't know. It's like so hard to see it in 5-second increments.
I can't remember what this one was.
Because it's also like on Discord screen share, so it's like half a second of lag, and like by the time it stops lagging, like it's literally.
I mean, I don't want to flame here, but okay.
Yeah.
What? But what?
I think we could have optimized this landing phase even more, but
I mean, you already flamed Destiny in the last one, so you may as well keep going.
Yeah, honestly.
Is this
I'm stacking the first 3 waves. I'm pushing it under tower. You don't see anything of bot.
Oh, I say he shouldn't be going mid. What was the timestamp that it came in on?
Wait, was there a timestamp in the Discord?
No, because the Discords will link you to the time that I'm talking about when it comes in.
Oh, here. This is the timestamp.
This is the wrong one. This is the previous game.
This is the last game I've seen 100 times.
Sorry,
guys. Back on this. The chat thinks it got really cringe. We are already like, let's just move.
Oh, okay. Here.
So here, I think I said that you shouldn't be going mid on this one. Yeah, no, you don't have to be going mid. And I get that if you're going mid, if you think there's an element of safety there, but you have the ward in that bush there. So I actually sent you a screenshot in there as well, where I say that you should be positioning.
Can you go back like 15 seconds before?
Oh no, if you want to.
Careful what you're scrolling to.
See, I remember the things that you are trying to avoid showing more than you remember them.
Oh no, we can show the tweet and talk about it after. Like, I don't mind talking about this.
We can, but like, okay, so.
No, but let's first focus on this. Okay, let's go step by step.
Who has not agreed to be here, by the way. That's my issue with showing that.
Okay, that's fair, but he tweeted it, so I think he wanted people.
I mean, it's technically public, but like, we don't have to talk about it. Let's just
so
look
you're
at
telling
this.
me here.
Go back like 30 seconds so we can get some type of context.
This was the timestamp, but let me hear your point.
Sure. But like for me, like I need to see.
Oh, okay, you want to see like what happened is
where the
we push bots. He got charged. He's out of shots. He's now. We have tempo on support, so he's basing first. I think I'm staying, pushing the wave in, and I'm basing 2 now to go mid with my support to make sure we get the vision.
Okay.
Oh. You can see I'm pathing here bot first, but actually something Reckless was doing a lot was if the wave was pushing towards him, rather than going bot and maybe getting 1 or 2 creeps more, he goes mid here, that in case the enemy support and jungle try to contest, and you have tempo on AD, you also go there if they want to fight, to make sure you win the fight. Because going bot here, you usually don't want to go bot insta and start pushing. So you will see, I will follow them to mid now.
I mean, I wish we could actually see, but so the ball wave, you actually shoved it all the way in, right? So it is pushing to you.
I shoved it in
and it's bouncing back.
First. Now we're going here to mid first. Like, this is very standard, right? You get tempo on bot, so you're first here, and then if they face check you and your support jungle are playing together, you can fight. But if also their support jungle are playing together, then if your AD comes too, it makes it for a good situation, because I'm not losing anything here. But if she would move too, she would lose something, right? And you told me that this was...
This is the point at which you want to be thinning the wave. You want to prevent it crashing, though. And you can do that because you have so much tempo on them that you're not needed here for this fight. And you're not looking to make an immediate play on the midsection, right? You're just crashing that wave in. It's just an escort that you need to be there for.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it loses
so wait. So look at the screen. Look at the screenshot that I sent. So the screenshot that I sent is that you can just go to the lane, you can oink there, and you can fin the wave there to 1 over, and then you get a freeze over them at that point, and that would be way better for the setup I'm looking at here for sure.
Okay, so
you don't need to be going in with AD towards mid here, because even if they do come and contest, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so this is where you're wrong from my perspective, because it matters a lot if I'm here or if I'm not here. Because if they walk in here, like we had a ward over and we saw that they won't contest, because I'm actually possibly here and they are not. And you have to establish that you are willing to move here too, because I'm not losing anything here. So that's why it will be a man advantage. If the wave was even, Kaiser would probably also come here, because this vision is key to make the play bot. But now because I'm here, he can clear this extra pink. I'm maximum losing 1 or 2 creeps on bot, and they can already move while we still have control here. The reason now that lead don't dare to walk into the river is because I can be there, and in fact I am here. And this is something Reckless did like most of the games actually that I watched, and that's why they don't contest and take division back here. But you said it doesn't matter if I'm here because they don't contest anyways, but they can.
No, wait, hold up. That ward doesn't matter. You're not about to make any play with that. It doesn't matter at all if he clears that or not. You're not going to do a single play on the bot side here,
but
right?
It
What's
matters
happening
that they
here
are going
is that mid...
Go on.
I would prefer to finish my thought. So you're not looking to be playing around bot side right now, right? But your guys are literally looking to go mid jungle towards top side here. That ward that Fresh is clearing right there doesn't actually matter at all right now. What will matter is if they get a crash on bot lane into yours. The point that the wave is at right now is where you want to be ideally finning it before it comes to too many minions over. You don't fin it there, it could end up going to like 5 to 6 over, and it becomes too big of a wave to actually properly contest from crashing. And that would potentially open up a play for them, whereas if you were to fin it from this point now by positioning in the place that I sent to you on the thing, you would be able to prevent that, and the play would be completely fine for your team to do. That ward there doesn't matter because you're not looking to make any play on bot side right now. You're not going to fucking contest Drake there. You're not doing anything there right now. You're doing mid jungle towards the top side here. And maybe you could say that you would prefer to be playing around bot side, in which case that ward, there would be a reason for you potentially to be there, but even then you could just have jungle mid leading over to there, because Azir can't actually do that much there, and that particular vision there doesn't necessarily matter for the Drake contest anyway. It's not really worth doing everything you're doing for this just to give them a crash on bot and a good wave stay afterwards. You don't have to do any of this stuff.
You're thinking, from my perspective, very wrong about this, because this ward, first of all, it's good to clear because it makes Azir play differently too. But if we don't go here, then they can take our wards, which means we won't have vision. That means if he just hovers on a stacked wave, that we will lose if we want to make a play top. It's very good that we still have these wards, and we will be able to clear the wave, and we will never, ever be able to freeze this bot wave if I don't go mid and they go mid, and they take our vision, and they can walk into bot. And also, if we want to freeze bot, our jungle will need to be bot side, but if they want to make a play top, this makes for us the safest way, except I can take the whole wave bot, which is not how you're supposed to play.
Well, I wouldn't want you to take whole wave bot and recrash it or something here. That's not what I'm suggesting that you do. And on this particular thing, they're just going to take that vision anyway once your jungle support turns top side regardless. Like, it doesn't matter if you have the vision there or not.
It takes a lot of time for them to do it, which means...
They don't have to. Like, if you're worried about them doing a dive on you, then if they just show up on that, you're just going to have to, like, fuck off a bot wave anyway and lose a massive...
Not if I have full vision that they couldn't take because I was there, which you will see now. Look, he had to clear this pink. And now we got TP advantage because we don't top.
Yeah, but they just don't...
Look, yeah, I can say it was perfect. If he could just walk in and take this vision, I would already stand in Africa. Because I don't know, but now I have perfect information because of the vision we have. So now we can play it in a way where we can exactly know when to walk back. Because, look, if Azir was already here and we didn't know because we don't have any vision, then this would be a terrible situation. But now it's actually very good for us because we had the vision that I went mid. And on bot, I get 1 or 2 creeps.
You would have the exact same vision anyway at this point. That didn't change by you going and clearing.
It does, because they can contest it as 3 if I'm not there, because they are really strong in a fight. They are playing Nautilus and Lee Sin, and we are playing Thresh. Thresh is good because he can push the wave, get tempo, and walk to places first, and that also enables me to walk there first. These champs are really strong in a fight. That's why I'm going there as well. If I think it's free win for us, I will just go bot.
Yeah, I'm not trying to like fully take you. Can you go back? Yeah, can you go back? Yeah, can you go back? Let's chill a bit.
So, okay, so here, I mean, I guess my take on it would be that, like, unless that unless the Azir does something
a bit before this. A bit before this.
Unless
Like, I want
the
to see
Azir does
Thresh
something
move up.
really substandard here, like you're gonna still have the information of like when he leaves mid, assuming that
Yeah.
like you have the vision on the wave,
sure.
right? You're gonna have information of when he leaves mid and like when he's going to be bot. And the perfect vision, like you're still just gonna
Yeah.
see him leaving mid. I guess the way that would actually impact it more is if he like ends up jacking off and going back towards mid, then you'd be able to see that and potentially stay at the turret.
Like,
Then why would you even have vision if you always have perfect information if you see somebody clear a wave and move? Of
well, yeah,
course,
that's
it's
why
really good to have
inefficient.
vision.
That's why
What I
inefficient
gain on
vision
bot here is very, very little. It's very, very little. This is much better for the game. I can
Thinning
tell
the
you.
wave
That's
there's
why
not-
many people do
Okay,
it.
thinning the wave there is not little, and this what you're doing here is not even like it didn't change anything. Where you being the vision setup there didn't change. They just lost that red ward. That's it.
Can
It
you
looks-
not
it
see
looks
that
like
he
there's
will not
not-
walk? Can you not see that he will not dare to
Go
walk
on.
in because we have tempo on bot lane as well? That's why
Yes,
he's
you
not
do.
doing. Look at my mid
But you
laner.
wouldn't have even shown bot yet for this though. You wouldn't have even shown bot yet.
Yes, and if they flip it, they get something good, and if not, they don't. But I'm not losing anything for going here. That's why I'm doing it. I'm
So
losing
if they
barely
were to
anything.
flip it there, Featherven can't join right now, but Nukeduck can. If they were to flip
No,
it, they would still go
Dude,
back.
he can just fucking walk. This guy is less than half HP. Of course
That's
he
'cause
can
he's
walk. If they start
leaning
fighting
towards-
here, he can
okay.
walk and tank 3 caster creeps at this minute. It's not something that will change the fight, the outcome of the fight.
He's burning pots here, which is why he's going to be healthy enough to go do a dive there. If a fight was to suddenly break out there, first you don't actually have to contest the vision that he's contesting out right now. You would only be showing now. Like,
Okay, I think
well, not
most
now, you'd
cases
be
have
showing
been
like
presented.
5 seconds.
Let's not discuss this one more and go to the next point. I think both of
Fine,
us
okay,
showed
we can
what
do
we
that.
thought.
Does-
But
do
let's
we
just
want,
agree.
do we want a jungle
Agree to
point of
disagree.
view? Self-made wants to be added, but we can add or we can not add.
It's up to you. I mean, it's up to you. I don't know what Self-made have to do with this, but it would be good content, I guess.
I mean, he wrote me something. Wait, for 1 second, I turn off my stream because I need to check some messages.
Yeah,
Yeah,
do that.
sure.
Yo, what's up, boys?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Dog, my solo is about to start. I just want to say, Upset, just shut the fuck up. Like, it's okay. You can talk on the Rift next year, okay? I also don't agree with myself being rank 1, because look at the trophies. Jankov is clearly better than me. And I'm not saying that even sarcastic.
Very
you know?
humble Self-made, but you are the best.
No, I'm not.
true.
I'm clearly fucking not. But it's just a list.
Yep.
You're right. You're right. To be honest, the thing is, I've absolutely
Just
nothing to prove.
go sleep. I don't know, play Minecraft, maybe open Tinder. I don't know. Just relax, okay?
Okay. My jungle said a power word. Yeah, I will follow his advice. But thanks for the discussion. It was fun.
Have a good night, everyone. My game just started.
Yeah, see you later, guys.
Peace.
I'll go up to. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Wait, are we actually not going to look at the other ones?
I knew he would do that if you invite. I knew that.
Wherever.
I mean, we can still look at the
I
other
think,
ones
man.
because I think that
I mean, we can, but he's not here to defend himself, so I'd rather not do that. And he also brought
sure.
up fucking, like a guy who had nothing to do with any of this. Like, Jesus.
is that
whatever,
guy your
man.
friend? Is that why you
Huh?
brought it up? Is
That guy is my former boss. He was my former boss. in
Yeah,
HTK.
I know that, but is he also like
But
somebody like in your circle, so to speak?
Yeah, but I disagree with this guy all the fucking time. So it's not really a good argument at all. Like, there are so many things he says that I fully disagree with him on. I disagree with him publicly about. Like, I've had really public Twitter arguments and stuff like that with him. So the idea that I'm biased just because he says something is really fucking weird, to be honest. And I think he's just reaching for that. But as you can see, he likes to reach. Whatever.
I mean, I think that there's both sides. I say like so. My interpretation was in the first one. Like the Q does matter. Like my interpretation is like I think the autos are fine. I think the Q is 1 Q too much, but it's like pretty negligible in the lane. Like I wouldn't say that that's that important. And then in the second one, it seems like you pretty much get the same information with vision or without because I mean the only because I mean your mid and your jungle show top. So when the enemy mid walks bottom after clearing the wave, you have to like ditch the turret anyway, unless you see him walk back, and it's a pink ward, right? So the Azir can just clear the ward, and then
The argument that he could and should have been making would be that his mid jungle should have been going towards bot side, because that's a perfectly legitimate argument that he should have been making there. That his mid jungle should be playing more towards bot side there.
No,
I
I
would
think
agree on
that to me just showed how uncoordinated Origin was, right? Like clearly when Upset and Destiny tried to do like the tempo base into clearing vision, they're saying like, hey, we're gonna like we have the advantage in our lane, and we're gonna transfer that into vision control on bot side so that we're able to control Dragon. Like that is
because that's the argument that he should have started making, but I don't know. I guess he like agreed with the decisions that his mid jungle were making there. I
just think he didn't want to flame his former teammates probably, but like I mean that was the thing I was
Destiny, so I'm not sure about that one.
It's true, but so in my interpretation, I don't think that him walking mid is horrible if they're playing bot side, right? Like if they're gonna play bot side then and take the Dragon, which I think they should do at that point. Like if they have full control bot side and they have the shove bot, why not just one shot the Dragon when you have like Trundle, which is one of the best Dragoning champions in the game at this point? I feel like it's a completely fine play to make, but I don't know. I guess they want to
different thing
dive
entirely from everything else. Yeah, I mean that's a different thing. That has literally nothing to do with upset there. Like I really wanted to just keep going on the VODs there, right? Because but wherever I fucking knew when you did that it was just gonna end on that because Self-Made's such a fucking troll. Great jungler though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody just wanted. I should have allowed us to keep on going on the VODs.
Yeah,
I thought that Self-Made was going to actually give an opinion on potentially like what they're going to do, but I should have known better. I mean, I've talked to Self-Made before, and I know that that guy is.
Maybe I'll message upset about. Maybe I'll message upset about doing this like some other time when I can start streaming again, or something like that to like continue this or something.
Yeah, sure.
Because I actually wanted to keep going on that, but yeah.
Yep. Go sleep. Go Minecraft. Open Tinder. That was the advice from Self-Made.
Yeah. He keeps bringing up that. I know he's brought up like that Yankos thing on stream as well. That like Yankos is like one more, therefore he's better. Which is probably a good way to like keep your eye on the ball if you are going to turn the whole thing into like results.
But like, there's no way that Yankos is better than Self-Made.
That's not even what I'm thinking. What I'm thinking is that if he turns it into results-based analysis for it, he'll be motivated to get the results. But I just fucking hate that because people will go off of stuff like that and use that to validate when they start using like results-based analysis.
Yeah.
I don't know if Self-Made truly believes it or not, but I think he thinks that he should.
I mean, if you look at my lists, right? Like if you look at my lists, they're not like. I mean, I have Alfari as the number one top laner in LCS. He's number one anything. So. And then I'm like, I have him versus like a world champ, world champ and a world finalist. So results-based analysis is like really lame when it comes to these types of lists.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked.
Do you want to finish off the
Yep, let's finish.
Do you want to finish off the support thing, and then because I'm starting to get fucking tired. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, it's
that distracted me from feeling sick though.
Yeah, it did stop you from feeling sick.
Yeah, that fucking because I only just remembered now. But that fucking distracted me. Actually, I was getting so into that. But whatever.
For sure. All right, let's finish this off, and then I guess at that point I'll just do like the averages and stuff, and you'll obviously have access to the document, but you can pretty much leave whenever.
I mean, I've ranked them all like by where I think. So I have Mickey, so Kaiser, Vander, Hillisang, Labrov, Denik, Limit, Torre, Promiscu, Trimby. That's how I have it.
Mm-hmm. I did
Torre Promiscu could switch places, not gonna lie. Maybe I will. Yeah, Promiscu at the lowest, I see.
I haven't actually changed this yet. I haven't ordered them. I ordered top 4 only for me. I was busy, farming upset Malding over an 81 rating for content.
Yeah, I know. I don't blame you for doing that. It's just like I just knew that.
Well, I actually wanted to try to insert
the stop when Self-Made came in. Yeah.
It is what it is. I actually thought we were gonna keep on going.
I mean, now you can justify the idea that the numbers generate conversation. By the way, now you can justify it. Yeah, you can just fully fucking justify it. It literally created an entire conversation here. These fucking cancer numbers. Like,
but I mean, I just feel like in the off season it gives you like things to talk about to keep you invested in, because like it's hard for me to go back and look at VODs unless I'm doing it for a purpose. And in off season, the purpose is to like, have correct perception of these players coming into the next year. 84. Yeah, don't look at that, Nisky. I'm sorry, buddy. The Oriana and Azir games last split at the end of the split got me.
You're not in NA anymore, Nisky. You're not in NA anymore.
Well, would that have been fair? Actually, I have to look at this. See, the thing that's actually kind of bad that I'm gonna have to readjust is if I'm trying to keep LEC and LCS on the same scale, then my LCS ratings all have to move down for mid lane. because I did think Niski was last split 4th best after Perks or after Bjergsen, Jensen, and Power of Evil. So I thought he was 4th, and he's definitely better than Demonte and better than Jizuke, and I have them 84, 85. So like if I were to try to make this completely cohesive amongst every region on the same scale, I would have to then move down Demonte, Jizuke, Palafox, Pobelter. Literally everyone here had to go down. Oh man, I thought Denick was so good in spring. Actually, I was so mad when they replaced him with DOS.
Yeah, I thought he was really fucking good as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
agree.
literally ranted every single episode of the Crackdown about how it made no sense that DOS was starting over Denick. So it actually hurts me to have a low rating on Denick, but I thought once he came back, he had some rough games. So mine was 85. Wait, what?
I just opened Twitter. First, I got messages from pro players about my ratings.
Yeah.
But most of them were amenable. But so was upsets initially, so we'll see how long that lasts. And then the next thing I see is Leader's tweet, upset versus veteran, complete fist fight, tune the fucking linking your stream.
I mean, it was what it was. I mean, I don't know what to say about that.
What I'm even looking at here.
What do you
All
mean?
these numbers, holy shit.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Ton of fucking numbers. But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to look at. I've enjoyed looking at my my other one that I made over time. I don't know why. It just felt like enjoyable for me. Okay, so we'll do by team now. So
Yeah, someone in the chat makes a good point that your not applicables are all to the ERL players, right? And those on average are probably going to be lower than the other major players. So yeah, that's going to bring the average up. You should just flip a number.
Well, I mean, it's just gonna make the average will be lower than this when I see the other players.
Yeah.
But, I mean, sure, like I guess that'll be a thing, but I don't know how bad it will be because, like, for example, if I had to give Tinks a rating, I would have him like mid 80s without having watched that much of his play. Like, I think that a lot of these players could end up being impressive,
being really good. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think that Tinks is one that could be pretty good.
I
Chocolate
think
could be pretty good. Yeah.
I think Tinks has developed to that point, like coming out the bat, right? Which is why I've rated him so high. Like, I don't really think that there's like a specific level he needs to develop to. I think the only thing he would have to do, if anything, would be maybe if he gets intimidated by the big stage. That would be it, though. But that's not really that much to do with gameplay. Like, I think he's already developed to that point, so it's just a case of him getting used to stage. So I'm comfortable kind of rating him there already.
You know, it was really sad when I do it on different rows, right? So when I was getting down to the bottom rows, I normally have to scroll up to like hit the players that are in the rosters or whatever. But when I was doing like certain NA teams, all their players were at the bottom of my rankings, so I didn't even have to fucking scroll to get to them. Like, it's like, oh well, I'll just take like the 10th player from each team, and oh, there you go. That's Golden Guardians. So it's really fucking depressing when you have to fucking do that. Vitality.
It's all about the overlaps you have, right? Like players, like you can have a bunch of like meta average players and maybe meta average players with like one god on them, but so long as the overlap in what they are good at kind of makes up for the deficits on another player, you could end up with a really good team overall that ends up like overperforming, right? I fully believe the Rox Tigers was the epitome of that at the time. People forget that Rox Tigers was made up of a bunch of players that most people considered to be complete has-beens. And I still think that the true S+ tier player on that was basically Prey. And everyone else had some degree of being in the right team at the right time, you know? So, I mean, especially their mid laner, right? Their jungles, oh my God, like people forget before Peanut arrived how dismal the jungle situation was for that team. Actually,
who was it? It was like that guy named Lee.
Yeah, it was him and Wisdom, right? And then a bunch of stuff came out about Wisdom being a massive dick, you know. So yeah, but like people forget about that shit. You've lost all the viewers you gained from the drama because everyone's just watching you fail Excel repeatedly.
Well, I haven't failed in a bit. I've been clean on the last like 3 teams.
I looked in my Discord and someone was saying, as someone who works with Excel every day, that you were giving him like brain cancer. So...
Yeah, I mean, but it's like the same thing as if I watched them play League, I would get brain cancer. So, I mean, it just is what it is. All right, so I mean, all the teams are in, so you can see where you think the teams will actually match up and if it makes any sense to you. So for you, it would have been G2 first, Rogue second, Fnatic third.
All right.
Fourth would have been Mad Lions.
Huh.
then XL,
Okay.
and then Schalke,
Okay.
and then you'd have Vitality,
Okay.
Misfits, SK, and Astralis. That's 10, right?
Really? Okay. I would only really swap around the bottom two, I guess. It's not bad, actually.
That's what
not
I'm
bad.
saying. That's what I'm saying.
That's
It's
not
actually
bad.
surprising.
But I think Fnatic will have a better regular split than Rogue will. But then I think in playoffs, Rogue will be better. I'm not doing that on the basis of the fact that they surprised Rogue, by the way. I mean surprised Rogue, surprised G2. I'm not basing it on that. But yeah, I think if Fnatic do really well, it will be because of a high level of aggression with Hylissang that will, make you fucking shake your boots in the first game of something. But in a straight best of 5, that the same pressures don't really exist. But I think Fnatic's initial aggression will be really good because each one of their players, like individually, are somewhat good, but the level of aggression that Hylissang's going to give is going to make all the players that are still developing and all the teams that are still developing into their mold too much to think about. So I think in regular split, I think Fnatic will be above Rogue.
What about
G2
XL
will be
being
third
so
no
like
matter what.
highly rated and everything? How do you feel about that?
I would not disagree with that, but like last split, I also said that they were a playoffs team, and then Schalke replaced 3/5 of their roster and went on the miracle run and knocked XL out from that last playoff spot, which really annoyed me. But whatever. Maybe like I would gladly commit to XL's placement there again. Even if Schalke just decide to fucking troll me halfway through summer again, like they did before. I cannot predict that a team is going to change 3/5 of their fucking roster, guys. All right, like that you can't put that on me.
Sure.
All right, that was fucking unprecedented. Right?
Yeah, I mean, anyone who saw Schalke coming in, given what they did in spring, coming into summer, like why would you predict them to be a playoff team?
Yeah, like I'm assuming. Except for the most giga smurf diehard Schalke found the planet or something, I'm pretty sure everybody lost one of their playoff contenders because of what Schalke did. But yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, man, I think that concludes our fucking spreadsheet. So I hope you got something out of it, or at least you enjoyed the experience. I thought it was like pretty fun just going over like all the players personally.
You know what? I guess I will. If I ever come on the stream again, I will just assume that I can't expect what's going to happen. All right. I'm coming with no expectations next time. I had a whale of a time though. It was fun.
Okay. Thanks, man. I appreciate you being here and giving me your opinion on all the ERL players. It was helpful.
Yeah, no, I was happy to be here. All right. Good luck with the rest of the stream. And good luck trying to defend or deflect all the blame on the numbers. There you go. You can just deflect all the blame at the end. So have fun. See you guys.
Bye.
Twitter.com/veteraneu.